order, and we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Gardner, would you lead the Pledge of Allegiance?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Mary, can we get a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Christie?
Present.
Deacon?
Here.
Gaba? Here. Gardner?
Present.
Pomelo?
Here.
Thomas? Here. Watson?
Here. 7
present.
Thank you. And can we look at the minutes from the last meeting or hear a motion to waive the reading of those? Or accept them? The motion, can we hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous? Petitions and communications?
Earlier today, we received an email from an individual that is supporting the measure on the agenda this evening regarding the bypass in Gorham.
Report of the town manager.
Yep.
So I did meet with staff, and in lieu of sharing everything, Miss Mary is going to give an update from the clerk's office.
Good evening, everybody. Just a quick update, and Mr. Zach is going to be helping me here. So I just want to show you the opportunities on the town's website for upcoming election information. So this is the town clerk's page. As you notice over on the left-hand side, there's an absentee ballot request. That's an electronic request, one that you can click on, fill out, and it's emailed to us. And then additionally, down through that, there's a paper request. And Zach, can you scroll down a little bit so we can see the rest of it? So also there's the links to the sample ballots there, our specimen ballot, voter registration cards, and then scroll up just a wee bit. Election information for November 5th, 2024, that link. That brings you to, hopefully, to a page that has a bunch of information. You can go, gives you data that extended hours we're going to have, numbers to call if you want an absentee ballot, and things like that. And then if you could now just go to the home page. Under news and announcements, information regarding the election, the third one, that right there. Just another way to get to that same information. And then it was an urgent notice up at the top, but it looks like maybe that's, nope, there it is, yeah. So that again is just another way to get people, catch their eye, the information that we have. And we've done print ads and what have you, so that's it.
Thank you.
If I may, Scott, will you make a brief announcement? We had been discussing about the tax bill. I had a few questions about that.
Sure. Recently, the tax bills have gone out. It was discovered there was an error with the calculation at the bottom. What had happened was the printer company had changed the formula to a hard code. So we thought it best, since the coupons were correct, not to incur another cost and resend them. We do have the correct bills are on the website under the finance department if anybody would like to print one off if they want that. But that was what happened.
Great. Thank you.
Under property taxes. If you scroll down just a little bit, 2025 tax bills.
Where did they go?
Okay, I just
It should open up.
everybody,
That's everybody's tax bill.
that's everybody's bill.
Yeah. At the bottom of the tax bill, where it computes out what's municipal, what's school, and what's county, that number was the same on all the tax bills, because it was hard-coded. where it used to be a calculation, and it's supposed to be a calculation. But if you scroll up a little bit, or actually scroll down, at the bottom where the two coupons are that you rip off, those numbers are correct.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Are there public hearings this evening?
There are several. The first one this evening is number 90-24, amendments to Standish Town Code, Chapter 263, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 1, Parking and Weight Restrictions, Section 263-1, Prohibited Parking. And then that goes on to say, the Town of Standish hereby ordains that Chapter 263, Vehicles and Traffic of the Code of the Town of Standish is hereby amended as follows. Additions are underlined and deletions are struck through. Chapter 263, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 1, Parking and Weight Restrictions, Section 263-1, Prohibited Parking. It shall be unlawful to park any vehicle within the public way at the following location: R, either side of New Begin Way for its entire length.
Is there any public comments? Please remember to state your name and
I'm Elizabeth
Address, thank you.
Duskiver, I live on Harmon's Beach Road. This is great for New Begin, but we've got people parking in our driveways on our lots, trying to get to the beach all along that road, and it's 2 lanes, and it's making it difficult. All summer, we've had
Can you
trucks
hear
this
her?
way and that way. No, I talk soft, sorry. It just makes it hard for us.
Right.
You know, they ask us where we park, and we tell them our driveway.
thank you. Any other public comments? Anything from the council? Thank you.
Roll call.
Yes, please.
Christie?
Present.
Deacon?
Yes.
Gaba?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes.
Parmelo?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
7 yes. And could you kindly sign that? Thank you.
Yes is the next public hearing.
Order 91-24, amendments to Standish Town Code, Chapter 181, Land Use, Part 1 Zoning, Article 3, District Regulations, and this is editor's notes in multiple sections. The Town of Standish hereby ordains that Chapter 181, Land Use of the Code of the Town of Standish be and hereby is amended as follows. Additions are underlined, deletions are struck through, and again, this is pages of editor's notes that are being
Any public comments? Anything from the council? Roll call, please.
Christie,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Gaba,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Parmelo,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
7 yes. Mr. Watson, you can sign that right now.
Should we go to the next topic?
So the next public hearings are related to the upcoming election. The first one is regarding question 1, which is a charter amendment, and the text of the amendment is, shall the town approve the charter amendments list summarized below? Summary of the amendments, the proposed charter amendments will add language to 2 existing sections of the town charter to allow an individual who resides on a parcel of land that's located in one or more of the 4 areas of Standish listed in section 201 of the charter to be considered a resident of each area and to seek election to the town council or planning board as a representative to any area in which the individual resides. But once that selection is made, the individual is committed to that area for as long as he or she shall reside at that property. And the purpose of this is to address the language to, so it's not a conflict in the future.
I can
think
waive the
that's-
rest of the
I
reading on
can
this.
read the amendments if you'd like.
There was a motion to waive the rest of the reading.
Wait, yep.
Second?
Yeah, second that.
All in favor? So moved. Do you want a discussion on each individual referendum question?
You should.
Probably should.
You should, yep.
Is there any public comments from the first question number 1, the charter amendment.
You want me to explain anything?
Sure.
What has come up is when the charter was initially developed back in the 80s, the section, what brought it up is the line between Area 2 and Area 3 was laid on undeveloped land, and now that land has subdivisions in it. And on where the line is, there are homes on that line. So this will allow the people that live in those particular homes, and I believe in this area there are 5 or 6 homes, they would be able to choose which area of representation they wanted to serve, either Area 2 or Area 3.
Thank you. And then any questions from the council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Nope.
Oh, sorry, yes, keep going.
Keep going. And did you want me to read the question on the bond, or just what the?
I'd waive the question on the bond.
Okay.
Is there a second for the,
Second.
all in favor of waiving the reading? Unanimous? I'm going to ask the rec department to come up and talk about this.
Just a brief overview would be, tell us, everyone, who you are.
Sure. I'm Nikki Billingsley. I'm the Assistant Parks and Recreation Director. I'm standing in for Matthew Duplessis today. One of the things that he wanted me to talk about was regarding the grant. Essentially, it would be a $300,000 bond. $150,000 of that would be from the grant. There would be matching from, it'd be taxpayers doing $150,000. The grant would match the $150,000. But in order for the grant to process, they would need the $300,000 up front, and then it would be matching grant versus taxpayers.
Questions up here?
Now, are we doing in-kind type donations on our match, or are we gonna have to put money up, or can we do work, and do in-kind money?
Well, the thought was to put up money for that. I'd have to look at the grant documentation to find out about if we can use in-kind or not.
John, were you hit up for any help?
I wasn't yet.
Okay.
We
Any
haven't done that.
problems with the
If,
people?
I was just going to say, if we don't get the grant, we're not going forward with the project.
Correct.
With the property down there where we're making changes, are they, who's the area where there's pickle, is this the one with the pickle court?
Yeah, so this would be adding the ADA paths to just make it a little bit more accessible for people, as well as adding the full-size basketball court and the 2 or 3 standalone pickleball courts as well.
This is at Johnson Field, correct?
Yes, Mr. Deacon?
So we put up to 300,000, and then we get matched for half of that.
Yep.
And then when the match is complete, what happens to the 150,000 that was matched? Does the town have any obligation to use that in any particular way? What fund does it revert to? What if we wanted to do something more for those fields, for the kids? What if we chose to do that? Could we do that, or would it be prohibited from doing it?
I don't believe so. I believe you'd be prohibited from doing
Yes,
that.
that money would go back towards debt service in the budget to reduce our debt service on the the mill rate.
One other question. My understanding is that generally Standish is not heavily bonded, that we have modest amounts of bonds. And can you say anything about what the level of bonding is? I know people are always concerned that when we spend money, government is expensive. We already had some discussion about the tax bills going out. But my sense is that generally speaking, compared to other cities and towns, Standish is not overly or heavily bonded, somewhat modest perhaps compared to other communities.
I believe we're actually less than 1% of what the amount the state says we can have for bonded amounts.
Thank you.
I got one other question. I know the rec department is pretty flush with money in a reserve account, 200,000 or 300,000. Could we use any of that money for this 150 because that would, then we would save 29,000 in payments over 10 years. And I know they have quite a bit of money setting an account. Why
They have
couldn't we
about
go on?
They have about 200,000 in that account, and we could use some of that. I believe some of that money is being used for other items as well, because we want to make sure that we don't, keep too much money in there. So we plan on using it to bring it back down.
I just hate to have money setting there, taxpayers' money, and then have to go
Well, it's-
bond $150,000 and pay $30,000 over 10 years interest on it, if we have money setting.
The Parks and Rec Department is, that money is
User
gathered
fees.
by their program fees.
That's
So
correct.
that isn't taxpayer money, those are, they're more operated like a private entity.
But it could be used for this project right here,
It could be, yes.
okay? And it would save the town $30,000, that's all I'm saying.
Mr. Gardner?
So you said that you're gonna make 3 standalone pickleball courts, but is that also redoing the existing tennis courts that are there?
That, I can answer that. That's happening in phase 1 this year.
Okay.
So that will be done, yes.
Yeah. Is it gonna be pickleball on there too, or is it just gonna be tennis now and then pickleball is on the side?
I believe the plan is to make it, resurface the tennis courts and put lines for pickleball for now until if this phase 2
Passes through.
then there would be independent pickleball courts.
Thank you.
Any other
Nikki.
questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Open up for other public comments about this question.
Phil Spiller from Westbrook wrote a federal Land and Water Conservation Fund grant for Westbrook. I just have a question. Is this already a 6F3 federal area, Land and Water Conservation Fund area, or are you establishing this as a new LWCF area?
It's already an area.
It is, okay, all right. You guys have done your homework, so.
Thank you. Any other public comments on this question? Great. Any other council comments?
I got to ask one. Water district, I was trying to get out before. Is there anything as far as people, speaking with people at the water district where we're doing stuff down there? I'm on that committee and I don't know what you want me to do.
Staff regularly have met with them about projects, but not particularly this one. It's a different source.
So
We do.
we're not having any problems with their
Nope.
property.
All kumbaya.
It would be nice to talk to them about helping fund projects that abuts up to their properties.
Agree.
I know years ago, they used to donate towards the fire department. I'm not sure if that still happens or not, because I was away from the council for 6 or 7 years, but we used to always get them to pony up, especially when it abutted their lands and, being good neighbors as we are.
There's no other comments? Roll call, please. Oh, thank you. Next one, question 3.
Would you like me to read the question?
I would say we
Move on to question
waive the
3.
reading.
Okay, motion to waive the reading. I'll second that. And we have roll call to waive the reading. All in favor? Unanimous, thank you.
John can speak.
And John, if you'd like to speak to us about this one, please.
June 4th, the Middle Road culvert had a sinkhole develop around the culvert, materials washing away. The culvert is rusted through in the bottom and needs replacement. It serves about 40 homes on the other side of the culvert and needs replacement.
Any public comments on question 3? Council comments on question 3?
I just know, it says, I'm on a chair of capital improvements, we're putting a $1 million tag in there. Obviously, we're hoping not to get to that number, but I guess that's just a safe number in case, once we get into this culvert and we take that road up, the residents are gonna have a hard time getting out of, because there's no other way in unless you go across an unapproved road in Standish, I guess.
Yes, the estimate is around 800,000, but they're still in the engineering phases. They don't want to confirm that number, so that's why we had a number not to exceed.
Okay.
Mr. Deacon?
We certainly hope that none of those hurricanes with 20-inch rainfalls or whatever come our way. But since the time of this particular incident, have there been any other culverts that are adversely affected like this, or is this the only one?
This is the only one right now. We have other replacements going for, that the town has already budgeted for, but this is the only one that's developed since then.
Do we have any sense that this is any way we could have predicted this and used that information to help identify other culverts that might be similarly situated?
Not that I know of. I mean, we do inspections. The state goes around and inspects them every so often, so that's how a lot of them come up every 2 years, depending on the size of the structure. They go around and inspect.
And what type of adverse event is the new culvert going to cover? Such, I mean, they talk about these 500 or 1,000-year floods that are becoming more common.
They're predicting for the 100-year flood, so they're going from a 7-foot culvert that's currently in place to a 24-foot culvert, box culvert. So you're going from 7 feet to 24 feet.
Very good.
Be plenty of volume there.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Any other questions? Great. Now we'll do roll call.
Just close the
Oh, we'll close the hearings. Committee reports, and we'll start down with Mr. Deacon this time.
Nothing to report at this time, but I do expect to have a report at the next meeting.
Thank you.
The Economic Development Committee has been meeting with the Rec Department to talk about repurposing some town land for recreational opportunities for residents here.
The Finance Committee is due to meet on Thursday because of the holiday.
I was not here.
Oh, I was like, there was no holiday. But yes, we had to reschedule, so we'll meet on Thursday.
The Ordinance Committee has not met yet for this month.
And appointments and personnel committees have not met, so nothing to report as of now.
I've got 2 committees, but we haven't met but one. That's the public safety. Nothing to report.
Capital met tonight. We're going to be bringing forward some equipment and a fire truck later in the evening, but there's no sense discussing it now because we're going to be bringing it forward later in the meeting.
Very good, thank you. Consent calendar,
There are no items this evening.
very good. Unfinished business tonight.
First order is 10824, amendments to Standish Town Code, Chapter 181, Land Use, Section 181, 7.1, Form-Based Code, Village Districts, regarding the building mounted signs above the first floor. This is the first reading.
Would you like to read it?
Absolutely. Town of Standish hereby ordains that the Chapter 181 Land Use, 181-7.1 Form-Based Code Village Districts of the Town of Standish Code be and hereby is amended as follows. Additions are underlined, deletions are struck out. Chapter 181 7.1 Form-Based Code Village Districts. 181 7.1 Form-Based Code Village Districts. A term defined as used in this section. The following terms shall have the meaning as indicated. Signable area, an area on the facade of a building specifically designed for locating signage. On existing buildings, the signage area is a space free of windows and doors and does not interfere with the architectural details such as columns or cornices. E,
I'd like to waive the reading at this point.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Is there any comments from the council?
Can I be heard on this? I have a conflict of interest because I own a building in this district, so I will be abstaining.
Thank you. Any other comments on this from the council?
I actually have a building in this district too, so I'll probably abstain. But Jen, could you give us some background on why this is here? 'Cause I know
Certainly.
you were
So this is here as a result of 2 projects that I know of here in town. One is when Maine Optometry came before the planning board, they wanted to put their sign in the peak of their building, and they were told they couldn't, even though that was probably the most pleasant place to put it on the building. And then when I resited my building, I wanted to put my street address up in the peak of my building, and that can't happen there either. So I talked to some business owners, and then I put together this ordinance that would permit signs to be above the second floor now. It doesn't change the character of the signs, it doesn't change the type of signs, it doesn't change the size, doesn't allow for neon signs, it just speaks to the location on the building that you can place a sign.
And if I were to vote on this, I would support that, because I don't see why a business can't have a second floor sign versus a ground floor sign.
Great, I'm going to open up to public comments on this, and then we'll further discuss it as a council. So is there any public comments on the signs?
Good evening. Peter Beagle, 141 Ossipee Trail East. I guess I'm on a little different page. I know those are kind of, what you say makes sense about those particular buildings, but the form-based code, the sign and the location, all meant to work with a number of other very detailed architectural things, the windows, the roof, the doorways, it's a package deal. So, you know, I don't know if there's a way to have, you know, and I hate to, and I wouldn't want to say be able to grant a waiver, because then anything can happen. But I guess I'm just a little nervous that these couple instances kind of negate all the thought that went into that original code. And it specifically, I mean, it's a line item, no signs above the first floor. So I think a lot of thought was put into that, and why that sign is there, and why the other elements that make that all work are there. And I guess, and I think some of it may come into play later when we get into the rural character and moratorium and where people want to build. And anyway, just creating that village and the important elements that go into that. So I guess I'd be hesitant to allow that. Thank you very much.
Yes, go ahead.
I think there's two questions, if you go ahead, John.
Were you there when it was built, the code?
Yes.
And so you said the reason that it was, do you know why the reason was that there was no sign above the second floor? Because it's kind of baffling.
Yeah, I can't pinpoint that exact reason, but I think when you get into the, if you look at that form-based code district, and there's a whole list of, you know, where the windows need to be, it gets pretty specific, because it's all about how that building is going to look, more so than the use of it. So it was for a very particular reason. I would have to dig back into a couple of the information as to exactly why it was, but it was just very specific. So I find it, you know, I just hate to give up on that, since it was one of the specific important parts of that form-based code ordinance.
And Mr. Deegan, you have a question for him?
Was that based on a particular model, or what was the source of the idea why it should be limited like that? Was there a precedent somewhere that you knew about, that you had seen or discussed, to say, look, we see this working somewhere else and we like that model and this is what we want to adopt?
Yeah, I cannot answer that. I can't recall that.
Thank you.
So in that sense, because there's no particular precedent, it's just those that adopted it came to that conclusion.
Yeah, but I think if you look at that, the form-based code ordinance section, and you'll see a whole list of signage, you know, requirements, that being one of the specific ones. And that when you start looking through the ordinance, and it starts talking about, you know, roof pitch and flat roof, and the 2-story and the 1-story, and where the building door is, and the percentage of windows, and just how that siding has to be broken up, how all those pieces of the puzzle come together, that it's all one package. So I hate to see one piece of that puzzle changed when everything is supposed to work together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Izzy Higgins, 215 Bonnie Eagle Road. I'm going to try to make 3 points here. First of all, the issue of why the signs were not to be above the second story or above the first floor was because the vision was kind of like in downtown Yarmouth, where they have businesses on the first floor and apartments or other entities on the second and maybe a third floor. And so that was one of the reasons, the main reason, I think, that that was envisioned to be that way. The second is that as an older person, I love to see signs coming. It's very hard when you're paying attention to the road to see signs that are a certain size and not on the building. In my opinion, the Sunrise Corner sign was perfect because you could see it. It was on, you know, it was on what would have been the second floor of that building. And I actually have in my garage back home the sign that was on the front of Higgins' garage for years. And it was in the peak, and it goes along one whole bay up on the wall where it's hanging in my garage. That was back when it was a village where there were businesses. And the other thing is that the only, this is probably the only thing that's been built in Standish since the form-based code was adopted is the dollar store, which meets none of the requirements of the form-based code. And I think that having signs that are visible, especially on a big old building like the Hartford House, is not a bad idea going forward. You want people to stop, spend a little money, know where they're going, know where their appointments are, put it up there where they can see it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments about the signs? Seeing none, open up to council comments.
I just, form-based code was a slippery slope here in Standish. We're one of the first towns in the state of Maine to adopt a form-based code. I was on the council then, and we were led through the process, but through the process, we always said there had to be a lot of changes because originally it was going to be sidewalks, these quaint little buildings that you walked from, door to door to door. And like Mrs. Higgins said, none of that's ever materialized in the form-based code. We tried to get sidewalks. We had a $400,000 grant, free sidewalks, and the town council went out 3 times, and it was turned down all 3 times. And we didn't have to pay a dime for the sidewalks. So we kind of lost a lot of spark in this form-based code. And since then, we've, like I said, had Dollar General. Now we got an Apple store coming in. That wasn't the ideas that we had in place when we looked at form-based code. We were looking at like Rockland, Maine or something where people would park behind the buildings and shop the front of the buildings, a walkable village town. And so to change the sign, I don't have an issue with because this form-based code has not worked well or at all for the town of Standish. Thank you.
Mr. Gardner, you had a question? Comment?
I'll reiterate, through my talkings with people out in Standish, the form-based code is only hurt Standish, bringing in businesses to Standish. We've lost out on a few opportunities to bring some businesses, which is only going to help the town. So I think this is the first step in maybe re-looking at the form-based code and hopefully maybe rebuilding it to a different look, I guess.
Great. Any other comments? Yes, Mr.
Watching the board where this came from, the vote was 4-2 to let it stay what we're doing tonight. Let it be on the second floor and the first floor if they want. The better you can see it. I like what she said down there, and I hope it works.
Great. Any other questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
And this roll call moves it to public hearing at the November 12th meeting. Christie?
Yes.
Deacon?
Yes.
Gaba?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes.
Parmelo?
Yes, abstain.
Did you abstain? Yes. Ms. Thomas abstained?
Yes.
And Watson?
Yes.
5 yes, 2 abstain. Order number 10924, amendments to Standish Town Code regarding the division of dispatch in the following chapters. Chapter 3, Administration of Government, Article 10, Public Safety Department, Section 3-36, Establishment Department Head, Enumeration of Divisions, and Section 3-44, Establishment of the Division of Dispatch. Chapter 142, Fire Prevention, Article 1, Sprinkler Systems, Chapter 142, -4, installation, Chapter 181, land use, Article 4, general standards, Section 181-16-1, blasting, and Chapter 252, streets and sidewalks, Article 3, construction and acceptance, and that is Section 252-23D, and naming and numbering of streets and roads. The town of Standish.
I'd like to waive the reading here.
Second.
All in favor of waiving the reading? Unanimous. I'll just touch on this really quick. This is to basically remove all references to the dispatch, because we no longer have a dispatch center here in town. This is replacing it with what we actually currently use, which is the Cumberland County Dispatch. Scott, John, or Zach, or Mr. Karen, anything to add to that?
General housekeeping, really.
Okay. Yep, great. Any public comments on this? Any council comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
And yes, this roll call, again, a reminder, is to bring it to the public hearing at the November meeting, and I believe the town planning board had their hearing on this this week. So it's Christie.
Yes.
Deacon?
Yes.
Gaba?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes.
Parmelo?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
7 yes. The next item is order number 110-24, amendments to Standish Town Code regarding private roads in the following chapters. Chapter 181, land use, Article 2, definitions, Section 181.3, terms defined, and Section 181.4, lots, and Chapter 252, streets and sidewalks, Article 5, design and new construction, Section 252-31, street classification and design standards. The town of Standish hereby ordains that Chapter 181, land use, Article 2, definitions, Section 181-3, terms defined, and Section 181-14, lots, and Chapter 252, streets and sidewalks, Article 5, design standards and new construction, Section 252-31, street classification and designs of the Standish Town Code be and are hereby amended as follows.
I'll make a motion to waive the reading.
I'll second it.
All in favor of waiving the reading? Unanimous. And I'm going to defer this to Mr. Cross or Mr. Mosier.
Yep. So this ordinance change does a few things. It moves the existing private road standards from 181 to 252. It allows private roads to serve up to 5 dwelling units and to be built on a 16-foot gravel-wide surface. It includes private roads with public easements in the definition of a private road. It adds a classification of private winter maintenance road for private roads with public easements, for which the town has a current agreement to provide winter maintenance. And there's a clause that no new private roads may become winter maintenance roads, and also add standards and an inspection schedule for the ongoing maintenance required to be done by road associations that control private roads.
Thank you. Any public comments on this?
Just a clarification, are you saying that private roads that serve more than 5 houses have to meet a different standard?
They have to meet the subdivision standard.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. This is time for public comments, so just hold on a minute.
I want to abstain, but so I'd like to make a public comment because I live on a private road.
Go for it.
Do you have to go up there?
Talking for personal reasons.
Robert Deacon, Whites Point Road, Standish.
So I think it's very important that we have these types of rules, but I'd like to ask the town officials, are there private roads in the town which are not identified for winter maintenance? Do we have any information about how many such roads they are, how long they are?
Yes, we do have a list. I don't know how many there are. I do know that there are 55 that we have winter maintenance for, but I do not know exactly how many private roads we are. We do have a list, though.
So if there are private roads that may not have winter maintenance, my concern is public safety on those roads and access to emergency vehicles if they're not maintained in the winter. We know that in the town of Sebago last year, there was a fire for which they had to bring in front loaders to clear the roadway so that the fire trucks could come in, and there were 10% of the fire trucks in the state of Maine were needed as tankers because there were no hydrants. So my concern is if you don't know how many of such roads, how long they are, where they're positioned, how many people live on them, I consider that a public safety issue that you ought to check out. Not knowing, I don't believe is an acceptable answer. I'm sorry if I see this as important, but I'm concerned about public safety.
We do know how many roads there are. I just can't give you a number off the top of my head tonight. We do have a list of how many roads and the mileage and everything else, but I just don't know that right now.
I would suggest that it be reviewed, and the fact that there are roads for which there would not be maintenance, and the concern for the residents that may live there year-round. I don't know how many there are, but that would be a concern, that a tragedy that if with some forethought that we might be able to avoid.
We have no control over those roads to bring them up to a standard. We don't have, they are built to a standard, but we don't have control for them to maintain that to a standard.
I understand that, but simply to ignore the issue does not address the issue of public safety. We should still be concerned with our fellow residents, whether there may be other ways to address the issue. I don't have the solution. I'm just raising it as something that ought to be thought about, and that's my concern. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So I'm confused on what you were just saying, that if he has no control over a private road, for example, I have a private road that only me and my in-laws live down. I maintain it, and I have to maintain it in the winter, but I don't have to plow it. I could snowshoe out if I want to. How is that? How are you saying that he should be responsible for a town safety for me to have to do that?
I'm just saying that we need to go into this with our eyes open, and I'm concerned about public safety. And you may think that, that particular case, maybe that's fine, that it's not plowed and we don't have to worry about it, and that's wonderful. But I'm just saying, if there are roads that are not maintained, have we really thought it through in every case? In some cases, it may be of no consequence, but we just ought to go with our eyes open to consider what the potential ramifications are so that no individual would suffer a catastrophe unnecessarily.
I can share from past experiences. Our staff work tremendous together. So if there's a route that hasn't been done yet, Public Works or the fire rescue will call Public Works. They're all out in force, and one would get over there. So we would never let a resident be trapped, whether it be Councilor Gardner or anyone. Like, they communicate well enough that we could get a plow truck over there if it were that sort of emergency. We also have off-road vehicles, so.
I'll use that April storm as an example. There are private roads that they had emergency calls, they couldn't get down. We went down and cleared it so they could get down there.
All I'm asking is that you have some sense of what is needed in those instances so that if there's any forethought that could help make you better prepared for such instances, you are.
There's just no control mechanism at this time for that.
Thank you.
I've been on this council for 18 years, 16 in the last 2, and I've never seen a situation where our Public Works and Fire EMS haven't had their eyes wide open and had controlled anything that has come up on any private road. So I take exception that you would tell our department heads to open their eyes up and start paying attention more to what's going on a private road. I think that's out of line.
Any other public comments? Okay, go ahead.
Abby Smith, Bliss Road, Standish, you all know me. I just want to clarify the answer that gentleman just got, because, he asked if there was more than 5 houses, you would have to upgrade to a subdivision. I was under the impression, new roads, so the older roads with more than 5 will be grandfathered.
Correct.
With the approval of the road commissioner and the fire chief?
Correct.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
New roads, Dana.
So your road would be exempt, Dana, from that, that they would be able to build down there, if that's what you're.
Okay, that's a different question then.
What's his name?
Oh, Dana Lamprey, 129 Wesley Way. So what you're telling me is if you have an existing private road, if there's 6 houses on it now, you can build more on it?
If it, the public safety director and I would have to review it and say it's okay to do it.
Oh, so they could put a subdivision off our road and beat up the road that we've built and paid for?
I don't know about subdivision type thing.
Well, what are you talking about? 20
I'm
houses,
talking
10
about
houses?
individual house lots is what we talked about, correct?
Yeah.
Well, just so we're all aware of it, there's 12-acre piece down there. The college has been, whatever, trying to sell it. I guess they sold it now. I'm wondering, is that what this is all about?
This is not what it's about. It came up from appeals board from her issue on Bliss Road, that she has a lot on Bliss Road that has a private road with public winter maintenance agreement, and that she can't build because there's more than, I don't know, how many houses down there.
Yeah, right now, if it's more than 3 houses, you can't build,
If you want to talk, you probably have to come up to the mic so that.
Is
people on TV can hear.
it an existing lot that's been there or whatever?
my lot, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about if there's a 12-acre piece off Wesley Way, and a guy comes in and says, well, I can break that up and put 6 houses down there and just drive down this road here, that's gonna be a problem.
It would have to go through planning board, and the planning board would.
Okay, well, it'd have to have some review.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's a different question. And the other thing I want to mention is the road maintenance. They've always been good. We've lived on that road. They used to come every year and inspect it and tell us, hey, you need to do this or do that. We've paved it, but, there's never been a problem on our road.
Thank you. And then you, sir.
Matthew Markey, I live at 60 Cram Road. I apologize if this has been covered, but we just got informed by the town September 16th that we are on a private road. Half of our road is, I live on Cram Road. Half of it's public, or a section of it is public, and a section of it is private. First question is, where is that line? I've asked Scott with planning, and I get this. We do not have a winter maintenance. So currently, to my understanding, the paved portion is public. There are 3 houses existing on the dirt road that is private. Do we own to the center line of that road? That's a question I need an answer for.
You probably have to hire an attorney to figure that out. That's not something the town can provide an answer to.
It's a discontinued road. The land was given back to the homeowner.
Doesn't mean you don't have to exert a right to get that.
I'm sorry?
Doesn't mean you don't have to exert your right to that. You still have to exert I don't know. I mean, I'm not, this is not my area, but I'm pretty sure you'd have to get an attorney to figure that out.
John, what happens currently on that road?
So what happened, Mr. Markey and them, there was a subdivision being proposed past their house, how this all came to light. And it was determined that the road was discontinued at one time, and the ownership of that road is undetermined, according to the town attorney, on who owns that road. So what happened was the town originally was plowing that section of dirt. So we provided them a letter to them saying that we can no longer put public funds, because it's a violation of the Maine Constitution for us to put public funds into a private road. So they were given a letter back in September by myself saying we can no longer plow this section of dirt road because it is considered private. We can't put the public funds into that. So the ownership, which I've heard multiple things that multiple people might own it, which has been explained by the town attorney, is something that they need to work out on who actually owns the road.
Thank you.
Okay, so who in the town is going to tell me where it was discontinued exactly? Is it at
So
the end of the pavement?
The acceptance is to the tar.
Okay, so there's two landowners that own land. Part of their land is on the tar, part of their land is on the dirt. Do we have to include, they're not accessed off the dirt, they're accessed off the asphalt.
Again, you're asking civil questions that you'd have to contact a lawyer for.
So, all right. Your new definition is a private road, a privately owned road for vehicular traffic that has not been accepted as a street by the town of Standish. So we can't, you're telling me I cannot post my land as private property, stay out,
Again.
giving written
again,
permission?
the ownership is the question, if whether or not your road is private. Private roads can be posted from my days in the sheriff's office, but you would have to determine who owns the ownership and who has rights to continue down that road.
Road discontinued in 1929, land went back to the homeowners, I own the land to the center.
Again,
There's lots of
I'm
main
gonna
laws
refer
that-
you to, like I said, to an attorney, because that's what our attorney has said, that is unknown who owns that land, because there's been multiple sources that possibly own it.
Counselor Thomas, any recommendations or,
Just,
actually, I had a question.
For Mrs. Thomas.
a question of,
Mr. Deacon?
I just asked Counselor Thomas.
I'm sorry.
I saw the memo that I don't know if he's seen the memo.
Yes, I have a copy of it right here. Or, well, I have a copy of the letter that I was given.
Do you have a copy of the memo the planning board was looking at when they were considering the subdivision?
I've got a whole bunch of stuff when it comes to that subdivision. I'm not sure I know exactly the memo you're speaking of.
Can somebody send him that memo? I think that would be beneficial in him understanding the rights to the road. The town attorney prepared a memo for the planning board members.
Oh, for the response?
For the Cram Road subdivision.
Yes, the response to his lawyers.
Yes.
Or is there a different, I have a copy of that.
I think I'd have to rest on what the town attorney has offered in that memo.
Okay, and you had said that it stops at the pavement. From the pavement back is abandoned, or discontinued. So that's where we go with the landowners own the land. And we have to figure out.
I'm just going to inform you, you have about 10 seconds left.
Again, your new definition, the privately owned road for vehicular traffic. It's not a private road. The town still sees an easement?
I don't think we have any answers here that we can give you as a board or committee.
What your definition says for vehicular traffic, so we cannot inhibit that.
Until you have ownership or private property rights, then you can, which then you have to go see an attorney for. I think that's the understanding that I'm hearing.
Anthony Folsom, resident of Standish. Just to ask a question about his land. If he owned 300 or 400 feet of road frontage, is the town of Standish right now taxing him to the center of the road? Or is that out of the realm? No one knows? No one knows whether when he receives his tax bill, whether it's to the center of the road, which could be an acre or two more of land that he's getting charged for.
That would be a question for the town assessor, who obviously is not here tonight.
Okay, so no one knows if he's getting taxed on that property. So the town's making money off of it, and now all of a sudden wants to take back.
It's not true, we're not sure of it.
Oh,
We're
okay,
happy to-
I'm just saying, I'm just asking if he owns to the center of the road.
I think we've
Good
discussed
question. You
that.
have to talk to the
Good question.
assessor.
Yes.
Yes.
Good question.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Well, Open up the council comments or questions. Mr. Gardner?
Well, I mean, I guess I'm just wondering, like, has it been surveyed? Are there pins? Are there, like, on all these pieces of property there? Like, I mean, there must be a map somewhere in here that has the pins and everything plotted out.
From the subdivision, when they went to look at widening the road, I think it's not, I mean, this was done by a developer, but it showed not to the center of the road. It showed back in the ditch line, I
You know,
believe.
is it on one person's property? Is there a right-of-way? Is there, you know, because I use right-of-ways obviously to get down to my property, things like that. And then there's pins for everybody's property. So I'm just, isn't that the easy way to figure it out?
Agree, but that's not something the town doesn't provide surveys.
No, right. So,
yeah,
so they
it's
would,
on
I'm
the
just kind of like
owners.
saying that maybe that's the step you take, finding out the pins, finding out who owns it. Get a lawyer, I guess, but.
Any other council comments? Okay, seeing none, can we have a roll call, please?
And just a reminder, this roll call moves it to public hearing at the November 12th meeting. Christie?
Yes.
Deacon?
Abstain.
Abstained, thank you. Gaba?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes?
Pomelo?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
6 yes, 1 abstain.
New business, please?
First item of new business is emergency amendments to the Standish Town Code, Chapter 151, General Assistance Ordinance. Adopt the updated ordinances provided by the Maine Department of Human Services.
Move to waive reading.
Second?
All in favor of waiving the reading?
Yep.
Unanimous, thank you.
And what this does is it updates the ordinance to for recipients to receive the best benefits that they can.
Any public comments? Seeing none. Council comments on this? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Christie?
Yes.
Deacon?
Yes.
Gaba?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes.
Parmelo?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
7 yes. Next item is order number 114-24, amendments to Standish Town Code, Chapter 151, General Assistance Ordinance. Adopt updated ordinances provided by the Maine Department of Human Services. The Town of Standish hereby ordains the following amendments to the General Assistance Ordinance, effective immediately upon adoption. Whereas the new
Move to waive reading.
Second?
All in favor of waiving reading? Unanimous, thank you.
And this ordinance gets us through the emergency period, so it can go through the regular legislative process.
Any public comments? Council comments? Roll call, please.
And this moves it to first reading in November. Christie?
Yes.
Deacon?
Yes.
Gaba?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes?
Parmelo?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
7 yes. Order number 115-24, authorize the Rotary Club of Sebago Lake to utilize the Sebago Lake Station parking area during their annual ice fishing derby. Order that the Town of Standish grants approval for the Rotary Club of Sebago Lake to use the Sebago Lake Station landing parking area during their annual ice fishing derby to be held on February 15th and 16th, 2025. Further ordered that a no parking restriction will be in effect on both sides of Chadbourne Road, which is Route 35, Maple Street, in the town's right-of-way to the Sebago Lake Station landing during this event, and that the coordinators of the event will place the necessary signing. In addition, the Rotary Club will have portable toilets placed at the boat launch during the event.
Any public comments for the, or anybody here from the Rotary Club to talk about this? Come on up.
Thank you. Donald Drew, 11 Drew Lane, Standish, member of the Sebago Lake Rotary. And first I want to thank the council and Public Works and Fire for our past support for almost 25 years. We've been undertaking this event on the lake for our charity giving money. So I'm here to answer your questions if you have any, but I want to thank you first off.
I just say, bring on the ice, that's what I say.
Yeah, well,
And thank you for your service.
Any questions for him? Yes, Mr. Deacon?
If there's too many people at the event, is it expected they would go to Johnson Field since there's no street parking?
That has been an option that we've had to to park at Johnson Field, if that's your question. Yes.
Will there be a sign telling people that they should not park on the street and go to Johnson Field? If
There are no parking signs where we have been asked to put no parking signs.
But nothing directing people necessarily as the overflow to go there?
No, and unless it gets to the point that it's overflow and they need to go, we'll advise them to go, but there's no signage.
Okay.
Any other questions? Great, thank you. Anybody else want to speak about the Rotary Club Ice Fishing Derby?
I'm Phil Spiller. I do have a place in Standish, but currently the president of the Westbrook Orem Rotary Club, and my colleague here is a former president as well. And Standish, the Spago Club actually spun off from us in 1983. We've gotten a lot of ideas from the Spago Club over the many years that we separated, and we still have a great collaboration with them. So this is their primary fundraiser. So we as a fellow club definitely support this. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Right? I don't see any council comments? Okay, seeing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Christie?
Yes.
Deacon?
Yes.
Gaba?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes.
Parmelo?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
7 yes. Order number 11624, Town of Standish Moratorium Ordinance on Large-Scale Subdivision. Section 1, Definitions. Approval means final approval by reviewing authority, regardless of whether the appeal is contemplated or pending. Common scheme of development means a plan or process of development that 1, takes place on contiguous or non-contiguous parcels or lots in the same immediate vicinity and timeframe. 2, is reviewed by the town through the town subdivision review process. And 3, exhibits characteristics of an unified approach, method, or affecting, including, but not limited to, unified ownership, construction, management, or supervision. B, sharing or use of common equipment or labor. Or C, common financing. Dwelling.
The reading, please.
Second.
All in favor of waiving the reading? Unanimous. I'll touch on this really quick. It was brought to me by several planning board members, the Comprehensive Plan Committee, and countless residents that we talk to and do something about the housing growth in the town. It seems to be almost to a point where it's out of control or unmanageable at this point. And we are just putting a 6-month moratorium until we get things figured out, some impact fees put in, and let the planning board take a deep breath from seeing building developments in every meeting. So at that point, open up to public comments.
Chairperson, could I be heard first?
Yes.
I need to put a conflict of interest on the record. I represent developers, so I'll need to abstain from participation.
Thank you.
Yep. So I'd like to just understand a little bit better how this came forward. So the planning board recommended it, the comp plan committee recommended it. Was there a vote on that? And did they review this document before it came forward?
I know they saw it. I don't know if they reviewed it, but yes, the comp plan committee talked about it or was brought up there, and the planning board.
And what hopes to be accomplished in the 180 days of the moratorium that would leave us in a different position to accept
Getting
applications?
Impact fees in place is the biggest one, as well as maybe adjusting some other ordinances.
And has this document been reviewed by our legal counsel?
He wrote it.
Thank you.
I just got one thing. I sit on the ordinance committee, and I'm assuming that'll be coming to our committee. And I don't see this taking 6 months. I would like to reduce that down to 30 or 60 days. I think we need to stand up as an ordinance committee and push this through. I know there's a lot of developers setting in line to come in here. I do agree we need to put the brakes on at the planning board and the comprehensive plan have both come forward and asked the council to look at this. But I think the 6-month time frame, I would really like to see that. As a member of the board, I'm going to push hard to get this pushed through 30, 60 days, as very quick as possible. I don't really think we need 6 months. So that's the only thing I'm telling you. If this goes forward, I really want to move this as quick as possible.
As with any moratorium, this one does allow us to end it early or extend it if needed. So we do have that option.
Okay.
Anything else from the council? Okay.
I wanted to just mention briefly, I think after speaking to the attorney, if it was under 20, I'd have to read it, yeah. So under 20, smaller ones would go through, with just the bigger ones that they were putting a pause on.
Now, the bigger ones, would they still be able to build up to 20 in this time? You know,
I mean,
would they be able to?
no, I think it would be depending on their plan that they submit, their application. I don't think they would be taking any applications unless it was under 20.
Correct. Correct, they can't do anything with anything over 20 if it has passed tonight. But anything that's already been submitted is exempt from that.
And when this comes back to the town council, we can move this as emergency order forward, so we don't have to take 90 days through the council to move this process, right? Is that correct?
I believe so, unless I'm wrong.
Because if we come back with some changes, I'd like to obviously move it forward and not run through a 2 or 3 month run on it, you know?
We're supposed to, them and then us, right?
Do you have a specific question? Because I did open it
Yes,
for public
does this
comment.
apply to the Pine Tree Estates proposal to expand
Any
housing
permit
there?
that's already in process is not going to be affected.
Okay.
Hi, Brian Levitt. Well, you guys are doing great with your questions and going back and forth. You answered a lot of my questions, actually. But can you explain to me a little bit more on the reading part? I think that would have explained even in greater detail how and what was going to be talked about in greater detail with this. With the reading that you guys do to inform us more.
Like us to read it?
I don't know. Is it?
Are there copies for the public out there?
There are.
There are some out there? Okay, that's fine. I don't
It's a
mind.
4-page document.
If there's, in a couple projects that have been already in front of the board, council or somewhat, anything that is not in front of the planning board right now, this pertains to that? Is that correct?
Yes.
So this is just a 6-month stop?
Pause, correct.
Pause. Nothing can come in front of, you couldn't move forward with any part of it?
Unless the total project is under 20 units.
If it's under 20 units or already in the process through the planning board, you can continue the process. Is that correct?
Correct.
So if you've got a project already in the queue, then you can continue on. But the theory is hopefully we will be through this way less than 60. I know I'm going to push hard to, and I've talked to Brandon Watson this afternoon, and, we don't feel that we need to set on this, even if we have to have a Saturday morning meeting or something, and, everybody's welcome to come to it, I mean.
I mean, is that the general consensus from the whole council? Is that this is
I don't know what I've talked just to Brandon about, because I'm on the ordinance committee.
Because after 6 months, does this go back and get another 6 months and another 6 months?
If I may, part of it started because we have up to 1,000 new units coming to town. And so you go to Gorham and you're going to pay $10,000 per unit. Here, we talked, there's a ratio if we develop, whatever, and I forget the exact ratio. I was with John. Certain amount of more houses, more roads equals more staff, equals more fire trucks, equals more everything. And so instead of putting it on all of the taxpayers who live here, we felt like impact fees were the fairest. And we've been working with a company and our attorneys to get the impact fees, and we're close, but we're not there.
Okay, that
So
makes
that was
sense.
the
I agree
primary.
something's got to be done. I'm not
Yeah,
arguing
no, that was
Something's gotta
really
be
what
done.
was also behind
Because it's
it.
coming one way or the other, and it's
And
better.
I'm not saying we're not 10,000, I'm just giving an example based on
Right,
Gorham.
right, okay, all right, thank you.
But also, our planning board works so good, because I was just reading, Gorham had a housing development, took 30 months to get through the process. Ours are 3-6 months. I mean, the planning board is working unbelievably good at moving these forward, and I think we just need to, like I said, put the brakes on for 30 days, but go to Gorham, you could be 30 months getting approved for a project in Standish, you might get approved in 3 to 6 months.
Go ahead.
How much time do I have?
5 minutes.
Good evening, members of the council. My name's Peter Anania. I'm a small business owner and developer. I grew up in North Windham, so I have a deep appreciation for the rural character of this community, just like all of you. I'm here to express my concerns regarding the proposed moratorium on large-scale subdivisions and the potential consequences it could have to local developers and the broader community. For the past 6 months, I've been working on an apartment complex that's referenced in the proposed ordinance. It's the one that's rumored. It's located in one of Standish's designated growth areas, and I'm close to submitting my application, or I should say I was close when I heard about this moratorium. This decision would essentially erase half a year of work and tens of thousands of dollars I've personally invested in this project. As a small business owner with an invested interest in this community's future, I want to emphasize that this moratorium wouldn't just affect me, but it would impact all responsible developers who are working in alignment with the town's plans for growth. First, I'd like to highlight that the town of Standish has been planning for growth in designated areas for a long time. These growth zones were carefully selected to concentrate development in ways that also protect the town's rural character. The planning appears to be the result of years, if not decades of work. The current growth zones do an excellent job of balancing the housing needs while preserving the rural character of the town. Additionally, I understand that effectively there is a growth management ordinance in place for areas outside of the designated growth zones, essentially ensuring that the rural areas remain protected. Second, I understand there are concerns about the pace of development. However, thoughtfully designed projects like mine will be phased over time, allowing town to address the needs without overwhelming its resources. Our particular development, there's going to be housing options for hospitality workers, first responders, retirees, young professionals. These are a lot of individuals that live in our developments. Just to skip ahead in the interest of time. So our development, it's going to have a long approval process. So if this truly is about impact fees, there's time to figure that out. Our project, I believe, will have minimum impact on public services compared to others, as we're going to have a lot of, it's going to be largely one-bedroom apartments that attract young professionals and small households who are just starting out and then will grow to get a single-family house. I understand the town is considering updates to impact fees to address the infrastructure costs. However, I feel that these fees are a thinly veiled attempt to halt development in designated growth areas, and I ask that if the council wants to set a GMO in growth areas, that they just be transparent about it and don't put it under the veil of impact fees. After speaking to members of the town and town staff, I think there's reasonable alternatives. I think that if you do go forward, we're hearing 30 to 45 days is appropriate. I just really struggle with setting a hard deadline of 6 months, because we work with a lot of towns, and 6 months, goes on to be a year and so on. So we share the goal of preserving Standish rural character. I think the area for our development is very carefully placed it's going to be right next to Hannaford. It's going to be far away from the road. It's going to be largely one-bedroom apartments, so it's not going to put a lot of strain on the town. So I just encourage the council to consider a balanced approach that protects what we love about Standish while also having growth in these designated areas. Thank you for your time.
See a couple questions with Mr. Deegan.
How many units in your proposed subdivision, do you know?
We're going to be phasing it, but 240 units.
204. And does anyone know how we get the number 20 or the number of units?
It was the attorney's suggestion.
But where does it come from? Out of thin air?
We chose it. No specific reason. We were just on it, and we thought if small families wanted to develop their areas, it would do so other than like 200 business lots, and easier for the planning board to manage.
Thank you.
Mr. Gardner.
2 questions. First, you said it would impact you. I would like to know specifically, like, how it's going to impact you. Number 2, like, And are you saying that if this went through with waiting 60 days or up to 6 months to kill the project, you wouldn't go forward, or would it just sit there and then you would start up?
I'm not sure if the intention is, it sounds like they want to look at this district. What I'm hearing as a developer is, hey, this isn't about impact fees, which we completely understand. This is about having developments like ours not come to town. So that's kind of what we hear. I think there is language in this ordinance. I mean, it does mention impact fees, but it also starts to sound like the wording of a GMO for growth designated areas.
What'd you just say there? You heard.
GMO?
You heard, yeah.
Growth management ordinance?
Yeah.
I don't like the idea that you just said something to the effect that it sounded like we weren't friendly for bringing development in. You said you heard something about we weren't friendly. You did say something about, I'm just.
No, I didn't say that.
We've gone from 270 units in 15 years to over 500 or 600 that have come in the last 6 months.
Yeah, and
I don't believe 30 days is going to affect, you don't even have your application in at this point. And so that's bothering me that you're saying you don't have an application in place yet, but yet 30 days is going to make the project go down the.
I heard you say 30 days. I heard 180 days. And I'm hearing this, the intent, I'm reading behind
You're
this.
assuming it's going to be 180, I'm not, yeah.
We work with a lot of towns, and Scarborough has a growth management ordinance. And I know Standish does have a growth management ordinance in rural areas. And, I think Standish has chosen these designated growth areas, and you're finally seeing investment from developers like us coming to here. And we're starting to see the interconnectivity between, I know he goes by T-Bone, I don't know his name, but there's all sorts of interconnectivity that the town wants to see that's coming with our development and others. And I just think we're finally seeing the growth we want in these areas, and we're sending a message that we potentially want to put a GMO into these growth areas that we've designated. That's what I'm hearing as a developer. And I know you're saying 30 days, but I'm hearing 180 days over here, and I'm hearing what I'm hearing is the planning board wants to change this district. And I've heard this about.
I haven't heard that they want to change the district. I don't know where that should come from.
I'm hearing there's a lot of problems with the form-based code.
You're saying you're hearing that, but where are you hearing that
I haven't heard that. You're just speculating something that I've never heard. I have not heard that planning board is looking to change the districts. I have not heard that.
Okay.
And I don't want that out there on record, because has any counselor heard that they were looking to change the district?
So this really is just about impact fees then?
It's about impact fees, and it's about 1,000 new cars coming around the village. It bothers me that we originally was talking all these housing, and now we're talking apartments with 12, 15, 20 apartments in them. That bothers me, because I see that as it's a $6,000 or $7,000 a year base for the taxes on an apartment building, but you're going to bring in 12 to 16 families with children, and how that's going to impact our schools, our fire EMS. What I'm saying is, with the houses, we understand that it's going to be a $450,000, $500,000 house. It might have a child, but now everybody's looking to build apartments in these districts. And I don't think the form-based code, I don't think we really wanted to address apartment dwellers in the village. Maybe we did, but I can't remember. We were talking about walking village with homes,
Mr. Gordon, you had a question?
Just how could you answer the how's it going to directly impact your project? Like, is it going to stop it? What's going to happen?
30 days, I don't think. If
or even 6 months.
I can defer to my business partner and Simon and bring him up to speak to this as well. But 6 months, and then we can't even bring it before the planning board. So then on top of that, we have however long it's going to take before the planning board. We can't. We've kind of halted engineering at this point on the project with this. So
will you be losing money, is what I'm asking?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we have to pay option payments on this land. Like I said, I've already invested tens of thousands of dollars into the engineering surveys, all sorts of
I
stuff,
think
so.
we have 30 seconds left. Thank you.
Good evening. I had
Name?
some that, my name's Simon Balin, from Balin Development. So I can go over some of the.
Where do you live?
I have property in Wyndham.
Thank you.
So I can go over what I plan to say, or I can answer some of the questions in regards to what effect this has. So the reason we do not currently have an application with the planning board is because we did have a meeting prior to going to the planning board asking what the planning board wants, so just an off-the-record meeting. And something that came up from police, from fire, from everybody, is that they want an interconnectivity all the way from our development all the way to Route 35. So by the time you get every single landowner between Hannaford and Route 35 in agreement to do what we want to do, align all our civil engineers with one another, actually put that together. We've been at this for 6 months. Now we're weeks away from actually putting in an application, and the brakes are put on the project. And so when you say, is this project going to go away? If it's 6 months, the seller is actually here. He's not going to want to wait 6 months for me to tell him, I don't know what's going to happen. And my option payments already started on this property. So do I continue making option payments on something where, if I'm reading between the lines, this isn't just about impact fees. This is, I know you guys are saying it is, but we know the way impact fees work. Impact fees are assessed at the time when you actually pull permits. So whatever changes you make from today to the time that I pull permits, which will be a minimum of 9 months, even though you guys are great at getting projects through in 30, 60 days, DEP takes 6 to 8 months to get what I need. So you have 8 months before any new projects will ever be assessed impact fee. So you have plenty of time to make those changes. So if it was strictly about impact fees, anything you do, I'm not grandfathered in from when my application goes in. I'm grandfathered in from the day that I pull my permits. So impact fees can be changed now, and I understand you need impact fees. That's what keeps the town alive. So there was a mention of, we know what happens with single-family homes, but we don't know what happens with an apartment building. Do what other towns have done and make it per unit rather than per apartment building. So if it's $10,000, it should be $10,000 a door, whatever that fee is.
That's why we got to look at that.
What's that?
That's why we have to look at this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, but you have plenty of time to look at it before permits would be issued on a project like this, and I'm all for it. As a developer, I want to save money, but I understand, and most of the towns I've built in, it's per door, not per building how it used to be. Everybody's changed that because that's kind of deterrent from changing everything from single families going over to apartment buildings. In regards to what we're trying to do, we've worked very diligently with every single development from Hannaford all the way to Route 35, and we're all in agreement. It's not just tens of thousands of dollars on our end, it's also on T-Bone with his civil engineer, with DM Romo on the next development over. I mean, we put a lot of time and effort into it. When we actually submit our plans for planning board for the initial, we're submitting a final. So you can imagine the amount of work that goes into something like that. 6 months of extensive civil engineering and planning, and now we put the brakes on it. You have a seller that may not want to continue with us. So just kind of, it's a difficult pill to swallow this when we're weeks away from actually submitting our plans.
I got one question. I want to, you said something about you had an off-the-record meeting with the planning board?
We do that on every single development, not with the planning board, with town planners, sorry. I misspoke there. But we always meet with town planners first to get a temperature of development. So we know our land, we're limited by septic on what we could build there. So the land could actually take 350 to 380 units if you're going by what the actual requirements are. So you go in with, we want to take the temperature of what the town wants. So you ask the planners, hey, this can take 380 units. I'm not going to come in here pig-headed. I'm going to be very respectful of what I'm going to build here. What do you think is a good number? So then we start our application that way. I don't want to go in with 380 if the town planners tell me that'll never get approved. So
How many per year are you planning to build to make it profitable for you?
the plan right now is 240 units, but we thought we would do it as a phased approach, just because it sounds like that's kind of what the town wants as well, as a phased approach. So they wouldn't all be built at once, but 240 units with what we're paying for the land makes it a decent
How many phases?
project. That would be up to what the planning board would want. We're willing to go as, do 3 phases if possible.
You said over 3 years, 5 years,
For
3 years?
3 years.
3 years, so around 70, 80 units a year,
I
roughly.
think that'd be a good number.
Now, are you gonna have apartments also in there too?
Correct.
You do have 10 seconds left, just so you know.
I'm just answering questions at this point.
Can I ask a question and
Sure
he
thing.
can talk a little bit more? Like what I'm hearing, my point is, how long are you gonna be before the planning board that you feel that you could do this?
I
I'm
think
thinking St. Joe's, I'm thinking the USM, there's a need, and
I mean-
I'd like to see something like this.
Planning boards are different in any town. I do agree, somebody mentioned that you guys can get projects in less than 6 months, and we've seen that, we've gone through the records. But it just depends on how quickly the planning board wants to move with the project. But your main constraint is not planning boards, because we've gotten projects through planning boards in 60 days, but you still have to wait for state permits. And that's typically, right now, DEP is running 8 months on a project like this. So even if the town loved everything that we have, it still needs to go for state permits, state approvals, DOT approvals. That's your longest lead time, not local approvals.
Do you see an apartment building with a grocery store there?
There you go.
We're set so far
Tractor
back from the road, it's not gonna be a Tractor Supply. They're gonna be smaller 12-unit buildings. It's not gonna be a massive 50-unit building. We built the same buildings in Wyndham. Town loves them. And they're leasing well. Tenants love them. Every unit's a corner unit. Beautiful light coming in. We have firefighters, we have dentists, we have anybody you could think of from the workforce. They love our developments.
I just want to say, and your
Time's up.
time is up, but I certainly feel a need for housing. I know it's out there.
Of course.
But also, we got elected by our constituents, and I would say the majority of them I've spoken to and I hear from are greatly opposed to all this growth that is exploding. We need a balance, we need the impact fees. I'm not saying we don't need the housing, because we do. I just think we need a balance, and that's kind of the impetus for having this, is to get those impact fees so we don't have the stress and the strain on the public safety and the fire EMS, public works, et cetera, and then the school department. The amount of kids that will be coming into the district with any growth in any building development.
Agreed. I would cap it with your number on units that could come online per year. We've done that in other towns, but not just putting complete brakes on everything going forward.
And I don't know if you've actually been to a planning board meeting here, but if you come to a planning board meeting where a building development is being talked about, I think you would see that there's standing room only, and almost all those meeting of people that are, in one way or another, upset about the building project.
So I was a endodontist in my past life, root canal specialist. So the most hated you can be in terms of dentistry, and I'm the most hated you could be in terms of construction developer. So I'm used to it. I take the punches, and that's where I get my gray hair from.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Nita Lampron, Westerly Way. I'm not really sure what to say. I just want to be very respectful here, but at the same time, I've been batted around here for about 3 years on this land. I've gone from 3 different commercial projects that were denied because I've been preached to and preached to and preached to that we want houses. That's what this ordinance is supposed to be for that area. And in this proposal, you're not putting the brakes on the smaller subdivisions. So the planning board would have to work on maybe a half a dozen all over the place instead of 1 right there. And that's where the density is supposed to happen. I'm not sure, at some point, it's when do you classify it as a taking? You guys want the land to control because I can't do commercial on it, can't do, and now I can't do residential. I've tried, for years here. I'm not sure how many more times I come back here. And these guys are 100% right. If this is truly about impact fees, they're not going to get a shovel now. I know he told you the permit approval is 9 months. He won't get a shovel in the ground for a year. So you got a year to do whatever you want to do with these impact fees, and he's not complaining. I don't think any developer here is complaining about impact fees. I live in this town. So I always wonder, when I got this information today, I wondered to myself, what the hell have you done, Dana, to this town? It seems like they always attack on my projects. This isn't the only one I fought with you guys on. Not this council particular, I'm just talking in general, the town as a whole. Because I remember, most of you people are new on the board since the last time I was here, but there's a couple faces here that actually wanted to do, was willing to, was open to the idea of what I had proposed, but there were people in the audience that said, oh, no, this comprehensive plan, this is the Bible. Okay? So why aren't we going to follow it? Why are we going to throw a moratorium up in front of these guys? And like he said, he's literally 30 days from giving you guys a proposed plan, and to put a moratorium on it where he's stuck, he can't even move forward with the project? That's just, and you're only hitting us. How many big projects you get in the town? 2?
That's listed in here, there's 3 or
3, yeah,
4.
and I'm one of them. So us 3 are going to pay for all the other development that's been going on sporadically all over the place. Oh, no, you guys got to stop. Even though you guys are developing in the actual spots we wanted all this density and development to happen. You guys want people downtown walking around and shopping. Well, if you don't bring them there, they're not going to fly in, right? You guys want all these little businesses and shops around. Let me tell you something. You're not going to get them unless you have people down there. And now you're saying, no, we get a perfect opportunity to interconnect the roads, put people in town, right in the center of town. I'm surprised. I'm pretty sure Pete's going to come up here for the first time in history and back me on this one, because that's what they wanted. So I'm giving it to you on a silver platter, and I just can't imagine you'd put a stop to it. I'll answer any questions if you want me to, but otherwise, you know where I am.
Any questions for Dana? Thank you, Dana. Come on up.
Deborah Butler, 2 Juniper Lane, Standish, Maine. I would like to take the opportunity to apologize to Dana for bidding on the land that he now owns, up to the fact that he had to pay as much as he did for it, because we are so grateful we did not get that land, because we would have had to have been in the same problem that he's in now. There's nothing that's going to be built on that as long as you guys continue to stop the people going forward for trying to do something. I am so glad my husband and I did not get that land. And I can't believe everything tried to do is that form-based code. No one is ever going to build here as long as that form-based code. I know some of you really think it's wonderful, but it's stopping Standish from growing. And please, I'm sorry, Dana. I'm sorry.
I just want to make it clear that this moratorium is not directly directed at Dana or
I
any,
heard some of the comments, and
or
it sounds like it is.
any of the developers.
No.
It's a broad brush.
Evening. Peter Beagle, 141 Ospey Trail East. I do agree with Dana on this, and we have been here many times saying, this is a growth area, don't put that tractor supply in. If you do that, houses are not going to go in here. We need places for people to live. The town's had a, $3,000 roadway plan that was done 2006 or whenever, that we have neglected to ever build on and try to upgrade to show where the town would like the connectivity of roads around here. If these folks have finally done that for us, that's great. I've been thinking for the last number of years, what are we doing with this TIF money? Can we not be putting that to planning some of this road work and figuring out, so when developers come, they're not spending 4 or 5 months trying to put these pieces together and figure out where these roads should be going. And, as much as, not everybody likes the form-based codes, I guess I would say the way that they would need to do this development, there is some protection there because of how the form-based codes lay out these roads. They lay out what the buildings have to look like. So there is some protection in there about the way that this all goes. And I think on a lot of these developments, if the planning board sticks to the code and doesn't start waiving things, the unit count isn't always what it should be. If you insist on the buffers that they need to be, if you insist on roof heights and the architecture and the way the buildings are laid out, I think you'd be surprised at kind of what happens sometimes with the unit counts. I mean, they're gonna have to satisfy, you can only have so many gallons of septic. So I think there are a lot of checks, and we have been battling to get some residential units in the town center. The ice cream that Papa's is gonna sell, I mean, it's just, we've wanted businesses in there, and we've staved off the businesses, because most of the businesses that wanted to be in there just fed off the traffic count. They didn't feed off people living there. Now, we finally potentially have a bunch of people that are gonna live there. They can walk down to Georgie Jack, they can walk to a lot of different places if we ever get the sidewalks. But I think this is one of those catalysts that all of a sudden, kicks things going. If they're all, you look at the average price of a house lot with a house, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. Well, you're going to be these are going to be probably a little less. You're talking, I don't know, 1 or 2 bedroom or 3 bedroom, or you're going to have a whole range of people. So it's not full of kids, for schools. I think there's just a good mix, and I hate to see this opportunity go by the wayside. If in fact it is about the impact fees, and there is a way to get those legally done by the time people need occupancy permits or whatever, then I would think that that would all work. He's not wrong about a year before a shovel goes into the ground, you submit your permit to DEP, and you're not gonna, you're gonna be 8 months anyway before you're getting anything back from them. So anyway, I'm happy that there is some sort of residential development that's scheduled for there, and I would hope that there would be a way for that to go through. Any ordinance changes would really milk things out. I mean, you're not going to get an ordinance changed in 30 days by the time you have the various public hearings and planning board weighing in and the readings. It's a tough lift, and it seems like we finally got some residential in there, and thank you.
I think the one thing that has been missing that has disappointed me, I've lived here most of my adult life, is with all of the developments that have come in, especially in the last 5 years, affordable workforce housing is missing. And, when they're selling houses down the street from me on 20,000 to 30,000 square feet, and they go for between $450,000 and $650,000 for a house, wow. That's, to me, is not workforce housing. And my impression of the form-based code is that it has made development of anything other than housing so difficult that the only way anyone can make any money on their property is to build housing. And I know that every time we mention workforce or affordable housing, you get a big cringe. But that is something that I think should be considered in future developments. Thank you.
Carolyn Beagle, 141 Ospey Trail East. I am on the planning board. I don't ever recall the board discussing this, and I don't recall the board ever taking a vote in support of this memorandum. So I'm not sure really where that came from. When I hear the proposal and I hear how people got together and worked on the interconnectivity from one lot to another, I get very excited about all of that, because that's what the form-based code is all about. And so when I keep hearing people say, oh, the rotten form-based code, it's not. It's when you have that connectivity that gives you the roadway structure that takes all the pressure off your main drag, off your Route 25. It gives you other pathways to go. And the fact that the town itself hasn't got the developers together and tried to format that roadway, I say kudos to the group that did get together and figure it out on their own. And I think that is something that needs to be supported. I also agree with Peter that this is the opportunity to collect an awful lot of TIF money on all this growth that's coming in, and we desperately need the infrastructure to go with it, all the sidewalks for all this walkable area within our community. That's what the whole comprehensive plan designated for this growth area, was to have a pedestrian-scaled, walkable area that brought a lot of people together, that created the density that would bring about small businesses. So what I already know is going on is that with some of this growth that has come in, we're getting an addition to the eye doctor. I think we're getting an addition for the dentist that wants to grow because more people are coming in. That's the kind of small business that we hope to attract once we got enough people to support these businesses. So we have a new comprehensive plan underway, but this is a growth area. It does enable a lot of people to not have to drive, but they can walk everywhere they want to go. They can walk to the vet, they can walk to the grocery store, they can walk to the gym, they can walk to the schools. And if we gave them the pathways along the road to do that, that would help us all out, because everybody wants to walk, and everybody all together, that's where you see people. That's how you foster relationships. That's what makes a community a community. So I just want to dispel the myth, really, that this generated from the planning board, because, well, at least I never heard of it when I was on the planning board. Thank you.
And just for clarification, it came to me directly from 3 individual planning board members. It was not at a meeting.
From the board collectively.
And I never said it came from the board collectively.
That's not what I thought.
Hello, good evening. My name is Joel Pepin. I'm a resident of 50 Woodrow Drive here in Standish, and my wife and I have owned and operated Papa's Ice Cream since 2011, located at 62 Ossipee Trail East. Yesterday, my company, RR&JP Properties, had its first planning board meeting for a 60-unit apartment building that we're proposing on land we own behind Papa's Ice Cream. We met with the town planner, Scott Hastings, this spring to discuss the feasibility of 5 3-story apartment buildings with 2 bedrooms each, 12 units in each building. The town planner confirmed to us that this use conforms with the village district's zoning standards and the town's desire for dense housing in that part of Standish. We were told by the planner that this was the exact type of use the town would want to see on the land that we've owned since 2013. After that meeting, my business partner and I decided to invest a large portion of our personal savings into engineering and architecture for our project to produce the plans that were presented to the planning board last night. We're not large-scale developers. This is our first multi-unit residential project, and we focus all of our resources on this project due to the housing shortage that is in our community, and also because this project does open up the opportunity to bypass traffic through the intersection of Route 25 and 35 through some interconnected roadway potential. Our project does have the potential to alleviate traffic concerns that have been discussed tonight and that we've all experienced. We've invested more than 6 figures into the plans that we've proposed so far, and more than 2 years of our time. This moratorium would be detrimental not only to the housing shortage in Standish, but also to the resources that we've invested into this community as business owners. Do you know how many apartments are available right now on Zillow or Craigslist in Standish? There's 2 on Zillow and 2 on Craigslist, and one of those is a dual listing. As your neighbor, small business owner, as an active member of this community, I strongly request that you do not support this moratorium tonight. Please don't send this to a vote in November. I found out about this today at 3 p.m. My wife is scooping ice cream right now, and I had to scramble to find childcare for my kids to be here. I can't believe I'm here speaking about this after all the work and effort that we put into this. No one from the town or the planning department reached out to me to inform us about this potential change that could impact our project. The fact that the planning board hadn't approved this or discussed this measure publicly is astonishing to me. The way this is being presented does not make me confident that the 180-day moratorium wouldn't be extended. I just want to be clear, a 180-day pause in our project could kill it outright. It seems that part of this measure is based on rumor development. What about those of us who've already put in all the work to present a plan? We've done 95% of the work that it takes to get a plan like ours through planning board approval. At the beginning of this agenda item, I think someone on the council said it wouldn't impact projects in the queue, and the way I read the measure, I don't believe that to be true. The measure says only projects with written planning board approval prior to 10/8/2024 today would be allowed to proceed. So for us being in the queue, we would be stopped in our tracks. I'm a small family-owned business with my business partner and I. At the very least, if this is to move forward, can we please lift the number from 20 units to 24 or 36 or 48 or 60? Our project is being proposed in phases, starting with 2 buildings, 2 12-unit buildings, so 24 units. So even that small change could help us a lot. We plan to just start with 2 anyway. I've got 2 kids in the Bonnie Eagle school system at Edna Libby and Georgie Jack. I've volunteered to coach youth soccer in town multiple years. My wife and I built our home here on Woodrow Drive in 2015. It was in 2011 when we reopened Papa's Ice Cream. We were in our mid-20s, and we were all in on building a business here. As a business in this community, we've invested resources and raised funds for countless causes, including the dog park. We've donated money and presents to Standish families in need during the holidays. We've been working our tails off in this community to pursue the American dream, and passing an ordinance like this would really take the wind out of our sails in the worst kind of way. My last count showed that the current Standish population in 2023 was right around 11,000 people, and it seems like we're talking about 300-ish units, so less than 3% of that number. And I'm just surprised that that figure is making everybody want to pump the brakes. In an effort to find common ground, I'd personally ask the council tonight, if this were to move forward, to consider changing the language in the moratorium. Should it be contemplated for a vote? Personally, if it were to go to a vote, I'd ask the language be changed to all projects that have had at least one planning board meeting prior to today's date. Thank you for the time, and happy to answer any questions.
What happened to your golf? Yeah. I was waiting for that.
With all these housing units being proposed, I think we could bring it back, the idea back. We hired a consultant, we looked through it, and the cost, it was too much at the time, yeah. We were proposing mini golf at Papa's Ice Cream. We never formally applied for it, but we were considering it, and, yeah. Well, I mean, that's this type of development that would make us want to rethink how to reconstitute the lot at Papa's into ice cream and more, you know?
I like what you say.
Yeah.
Can anybody answer his question where he's already been through planning? You're going to answer that?
This project does not apply to you, so that's why you weren't contacted.
Why does it not apply to me?
Because you have submitted a planning board application, a substantial planning board application.
I could have misread the
I would
measure
sit
tonight.
down now.
Yeah, I could have misread the measure, but to me, it's...
I can double check with the attorney, but my understanding is that your project is exempt.
Okay. I mean, for the record, I still oppose the measure, and I don't think it's in concert with the housing shortage that exists here. And again, we're talking a lot about traffic concerns, and we've seen traffic get worse through that intersection, and I drive through it every time I leave Papa's, and it's the developers on both sides of the intersections that are going to invest the resources to fix this.
You have already spoken this. 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
I think we're opening up I'm not sure, just, because
he
once she
said-
speaks for 3 minutes, everybody in this room.
I'm not going to
can
speak for
again.
3 minutes, I'm just
I
going
just
to,
wanna
something
be
that he
careful,
said.
because-
We own Butler Casting Realty, which is the big building over on the corner of Moody Road and 35, and we own our own business inside of it called New England Castings. My employees cannot find housing. And these employees are mostly young, single men that can't find housing in Standish. Do you know my employees have to come from Minot, Lewiston, Auburn because they can't get housing here. I can't hire new people because they can't get housing, affordable housing, apartments in this area. And that's usually the type of people that we employ, or we have the elderly people. We have the combination between the young and the old, and the in between, because of the types of jobs we have. And we can't get people here. So we do need apartments here. We need a lot of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
I gotta say something. Steve Dusky, my wife Betsy, I live on Harmon's Beach. We moved up here 10 years ago from Weymouth, Mass. Any of you guys know the Navy base down there?
Oh, yeah.
They put up what these guys want to put up. I'm gonna tell you, the cars, the people, don't give up their cars. You get down there on a weekend and there's hardly anybody walking, and there's beautiful walking past, all kinds of stuff. People aren't using it.
Right.
Yeah, I agree, we need housing. What are your rents gonna be? I know it's early, give me a guess.
1,500.
That's not too bad. I know, you haven't looked, it's right. Back home, that'd be $3,500. But you gotta take some time and look at these projects and figure out long-term what's gonna affect the town. Because you put all this stuff up, schools, fire, police, you don't have it here yet. So who's gonna pay for it? We, the taxpayer. Developers are good. Oh, what town do you live in? Okay, you? The other guy, did he leave?
We can't hear what he's saying.
'Cause most of the developers that want to come in don't live here. And once the project is done, they're gone. And we're stuck with it. Keep that in mind, please.
Thank you.
I'm not a
Has he talked already?
Ryan, you did already talk on this.
Yes, and I'd like 3 minutes, please.
Sleep.
Because I'd like this,
Really?
this is a very rare opportunity for the town to look at on talking about what Carolyn and Peter did about the interconnectivity. I think it's important that you guys take that time, whatever, to think about that interconnectivity with people like Simon and T-Bone and people that are doing that, and Tom, those 3 properties all at once, to have that interconnectivity. If not, it will be a hopscotch thing like our sidewalks were years ago, and you'd have one built here and one built there, and nothing was connected properly. And I just think it's important to think about that, where it's a unique situation where you have all those properties in line right now to get those back streets all in line, all the utilities run at the same time, for everybody. And if you guys have a meeting with that, and it might pay to invite some of those people and developers that are working on those projects, because they may have some good insight to help and have, be able to answer questions and help the town possibly with that. So that's all I had.
Thank you. You get 1 second.
If you want to judge the room in this, what we're trying to do here tonight, just ask yourself one question. When's the last time that Dana Lampron and Peter and Carol Beagle agreed on something?
Amen.
That's your answer.
Any other public comments? I'll open up the council comments. Mr. Deacon?
I'd like to ask the town manager, do we really need 180 days? And what would be the adverse effect of having these impact fees determined at a later date?
So to be clear, I did not put this on the agenda. As the manager, I consulted with the attorney about it, so it has nothing to do with me. There is no adverse effect to making it shorter. I do know for a fact that we just can't say we want impact fees and they come next meeting. Like, it's a process. We hired a company, we've talked to legal, and we had to substantiate what we, and Zach can speak better to this, but we had to substantiate what we wanted, where they were going to go to. So Parks and Rec open space. I mean, we have one now, so it's not like we truly don't have any plan. So like, this was truly a major part of that. Like, we just can't. But say for giggles, it's my understanding if we did put this to 60 days, the attorney said within, and I may be wrong, 30 to 45 days, we could have impact fees. And I agree, like, I want to say, so Brian's projects, when he comes to get an application, that's when he's going to pay his impact fees. So I agree, like, for them, it won't matter. They're 8 months out, like, we'll be well on our way with that because of that.
So you could live without this passing because the impact fees will be determined in a relatively short period of time?
Correct. Right now, we have 389, I believe, though. If we don't get the impact fees done, that's almost 400 that would not apply to it. So, and I'd have to ask staff, it would be by the skin of our teeth. So maybe 30 or 60 days, they would be sure done, but I'm not convinced that by the time all the applications come in, they would be having to pay that fee.
I think I just want to bring up, I think that, development is really complicated. Housing development is really, really complicated. And people invest a lot before they even get to the point of being able to present their project to the planning board. And I can say, I don't always, work necessarily in the same field that some of these folks do. I work in low-income housing development, but I can say, last year we had a project that did not move forward, and we lost $500,000, like $500,000. Like, that's a lot of money, and just because we're a housing developer, doesn't mean we're sitting fat. Like, again, we're a low-income housing developer, and that could have left a number of people unemployed. Luckily, we had some other irons in the fire, but to my point, that there is a lot of work that's done, a lot of people that are involved, and you're not just affecting some big fat cat developer when you say, no, you can't come in. And furthermore, I do want to say that I think it was Mr. Pepin that came forward. I agree with every single one of his comments. I think that since I've been on this council, I've seen him come, several times. I think that I was here right around mini golf time, right when, and we make it so difficult to develop in this town. And here we are with a project, as Dana mentioned, that is exactly what we have laid out, is what we want in an area where we want to see density. And I don't think that is going to change through the comp plan committee process. The only thing that would motivate me to vote on this at this point is, if it were a 30-day or a 60-day. I don't see what stopping the process does, for 20 years of, us not moving forward in development.
Yes. Mine's more of a statement. I love having these meetings. I joined the board to be able to talk about things like this in our town. I've been here for like 32 years, grew up here, went to high school here, and I love the interaction. Everybody's nice, comes up, we have good talk. But something was said earlier that's just kind of like been digging at me, that I think that just to throw caution when you go to a meeting, not to insult people and say that you have hidden agendas, not that you're not here for impact fees. Because I got this in my email, and I read it, but I didn't know a lot. That's why we come to the meeting to talk about it. So I have no hidden agenda. I don't think anybody on here has any hidden agenda. So when you insult people saying that we do, it's just really hurtful, and just kind of like throw caution out there when I know you're upset and mad and you want to get answers to it, to what this is, but okay. That's all I want to say.
Mr. Parmelo.
This is tough because Dana, I know he's come up and accused us of denying him. We've never denied anything. And there's no way until Dana called me this morning that I was even aware of Dana Lamford and you guys. I'm assuming you guys are with Dana, right? Yes. That anything was coming forward. I just heard about it today. And so to think that we're got some vendetta against Dana is ridiculous. It's not true. If we say, okay, let's do the moratorium 60 days from now, that means 5 more developers are going to show up and go, hey, wait a minute, I'm here too. And so if we're gonna do it, we gotta do it and move forward. If not, we're gonna miss this opportunity for a long time, you know? And with 400 or 500 units, when you did, 176 in 15 years, or 276, and we're doing 500 units maybe in 6 months, I mean, we need to look at the impact fees, and we need to look at other stuff. I think we can move it fast. I've said that at the beginning of it, but I just don't like the idea of people coming forward and pretending we're targeting a person in this room, because I'm telling you, there's no way that voting tonight is targeting any person in this room. I just want to bring that up.
I'm going to mirror what Mr. Permos just said, and, I didn't have any idea Dana or even was talking to you guys or anything like that. So there's no target on anybody's back as far as I'm concerned. And I'm talking for all the voters. When I see residents flooding this room, opposed to X project, this project, that project, whatever project it may be, and all the, planning board meetings I've been to, because I've been coming to the planning board meetings to see what's going on in town and, getting a pulse of what's actually happening, that the voters, the residents, are hesitant to see growth. So I have to listen to that. And I have to listen to the planning board members that have come to me and said, hey, what can we do about this? So, again, no target on anybody's back, no hard feelings towards anybody. I just, we have to look at something. Mr. Gardner?
Yeah, question for you is, if this passes tonight, what next? What are we passing, and what is gonna happen, and why are we gonna stop?
It's the impact fees, and the time will run out when it runs out. If we want to make an amendment to the 180 days.
It's just so we can get impact fees in place.
Correct. That's the biggest driving factor.
I would make a motion that we do it in 60 days. I don't know if we can or not, but I guess it's how hard the ordinance committee is willing to work. I can be at a meeting Saturday morning if it comes to it. Maybe, I don't know how long it's gonna take, like I said, to get this in place. Obviously, it's gonna take some time from staff, and, it's not gonna happen in a week, but.
I do know the impact fees are already in process, and I don't know if Zach or Scott has an update on, potential timing on when those might come to fruition.
It's really just a matter of process after that. If I can get it in time for the ordinance committee meeting this month, they'll go to the ordinance committee and we'll talk about it, but I may not get it by the ordinance committee. But I expect to have them by the end of the month. I expect to have this ordinance ready by the end of the month, at the very, absolute
When's our
very.
ordinance, next week? Next ordinance. But nothing says we can't meet 2 or 3 times in a month in the ordinance. I know this old school is, you meet once a month, but, we're talking of tying up some time, but I understand where they're coming from, but I don't think that 30 or 60 days, you're not even on the planning board agenda, and they don't even meet for 30 days. So you got at least 30 days that are you set up to be on the next planning board agenda, or have you talked to the planning board to set up anything with them yet? I guess because you're telling me you can't wait 30 days, 60 days, and yet they don't meet for 30 days, and are you even on the next agenda with the planning board?
So we have a schedule of how far before that they have to have everything submitted and consider a complete application. This would halt any new applications going in, so it stops.
Why can't you continue processing your application so that as soon as we move forward, you're ready to go? That doesn't stop you from doing your planning, does it? We're not gonna, no one here doesn't want you. Everybody wants you to be there and to have your houses. I don't think there's anybody on this board that is here saying, oh, no, we're not gonna let them do it. So it's gonna happen. It just might take you 60 days longer,
And I just want to apologize if I came off feeling target. I don't feel targeted individually, but I guess to answer your point, I think it's just the unknown. My intuition is telling me that this isn't necessarily just about impact fees. I keep hearing it's largely about impact fees. So that uncertainty is what would put the pause on for us.
So we would stop until we had a temperature in the room where we felt that any further progress would be awarded with some sort of approvals.
I'm hearing impact fees is really what we're looking at. Because impact fees,
I keep
obviously
hearing-
addresses putting money into accounts that can be used for any type of infrastructure that we need to do, you know?
I think any of the developers who are here would be fine with something being in place where any new development had to go with the new impact fees,
Right.
which would happen anyways.
Absolutely.
Because we're 9 months away from DEP. So kind of the fact that development takes as long as it does, and it's great that somebody's here who does affordable, I do affordable in New Hampshire, and you're years away. So we don't expect that the impact fees are going to be what they are the day that we start the project. We expect in a year from now, everybody's going to change them. So we always budget for that, and there's no way for me to get my application in quick enough just so I can take advantage of the impact fees that I know that are going to go out the door in 30 to 60 days. I'm going to go with the new impact fees because it's going to be when I pull my permit. So just, it almost sounds like a moot point to why put the moratorium in if we know that anything new that comes in, by the time we get to permits, you're going to be with new impact fees anyway. So what's the point of it? Otherwise, if it's not put into place, we continue. We know who the owners are for our adjacent lots. Right now, we know who's across the street. We know how it's going to interconnect. I've been in a situation in a different town where something came up and that person now changes, and everything that you've done for the last 8 months goes out the window because a new person who's in the middle of the entire development doesn't agree to having cars going through their property. So it puts the brakes on everybody, and one person's gonna say, you know what, I'm not gonna stick around, I got a lot of family funds tied up into this, I'm gonna sell and move on, and you don't know who, you're gambling at that point.
Thank you.
Of course.
Mr. Gardner.
Scott, just what, Zach, my bad. Zach, what are you just waiting for, like, what the number of the impact fee is gonna be? Is that what we're waiting on? Like you said, they'll be in a month. What are you waiting on, like?
Both the methodology and the actual ordinance itself. There has to be an ordinance to go with it as well.
Okay, thank you.
Close public comment.
I know I'm speaking out of turn, but when I was on the ordinance committee and we had a pile of things that were in front of us, we met 2 or sometimes 3 times in a month to address what was considered important in tweaking ordinances and reviewing ordinances and writing new ordinances. So I don't think putting a little extra time in is out of the question. I know it's not my time, but
It's just to be clear, though, we're waiting for the attorneys and we had to have, like you said, a methodology. So like, how are we getting our fees? So it's not at all the waiting for the committees to meet. It's beyond that.
All righty.
60.
Public comments is officially closed again.
Thank you. I guess I'm ready to make a motion that we reduce this from 6 months to 60 days, and the ordinance committee just focus on impact fees.
I'll second that motion. We have a roll call on the motion, please.
So I have a question, Zach. Does that change is that a substantial change to this, that it starts a introduction again?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a clause at the end of this that says they can be repealed at any time, correct?
Yes.
So I think that's your out on this. It doesn't give you the specific day you want, but it says it can be repealed at any time.
Well, it puts everybody at ease because we're strictly dealing with a certain subject instead of opening it up to sidewalks and frontages or whatever.
So you can't do it, or you can?
You can.
Roll call on that? Okay. And that is amended to 60 days from 180 to 60 days.
60 days, we're gonna have to get back to them instead of 6 months. Oh, we're gonna vote.
Have a roll call so we can vote on it.
Do you have a question?
No, I have a vision. You go around this town right now and how many areas are being cut. The 4 towns, you can see it, what it used to be in the good old days. 4 areas. 1, 2, 3, 4. And they're all gonna develop and grow. What about I was very sad the other day to hear the The French language was eliminated from Bonnie Eagle High School, and in the place, Chinese. They're learning Chinese. And I got upset about that a little bit. My wife was a teacher there, too. I was a contractor in Portland and South Portland for many years with my father. And I learned a lot of things about people, you people I see out here. I like you. I like you. I don't like you. No, but I do. But I hear what I see, and I can see the 4 sections of the town.
Yeah.
And all the history is down on the water. And we got the old ice house. You've got the roundabout of the railroad down there. We're not taking advantage of that. Think of the kids going down there. Think of us going down there and going back when the train went through and went all the way through. No, I don't like moratoriums. I'll be very honest about it. And I can see different little things right now in these areas that's going to make us grow and be the envy of people. And I've done this 4 times before. And I went through the farm base. And everybody will do it one way or the other. And it's time for a change. Maybe we have to withdraw from SAD 6. I don't know. I'll be dead by that time, probably. But thank you very much. I had to get that up. I had my water.
They had your water.
I have a roll
I don't know what we put in that water.
May I comment? J'ai étudié français pour 11 ans, mais j'ai oublié beaucoup d'autres. Je parle français, mais un petit peu à ce moment. Bonsoir, pourtant, à Idenenien.
Speaking French. He wants to know whether you're speaking French.
That's all I have to say.
Wait, we need to move the.
Point of order, I think we have a motion on the table.
I think we need to get back to what we were
Let's have a
doing.
roll call, please. Let's call a question and have a roll call.
Christie,
No.
Deacon,
Yes.
Gaba,
No.
Gardner.
On the 6 months to 60,
This is on
right?
the
60 days, yes.
To 60 days.
Yeah, I guess it don't matter, but yes.
Yes?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you. Pomerlo.
Yes.
Ms. Thomas is abstain,
Abstain.
and Watson.
Yes.
4 yes, 2 no. Motion carries.
Okay. So we'll have a roll call on the order as amended.
Correct, yep.
So can we have that roll call, please?
Christie?
Can I, that was to 60 days, but also just to talk about impact fees too, right?
Correct.
Nothing else.
Exactly. So we're not scaring people away thinking we're gonna do something different.
Christie?
No.
Hey, you woke up.
Deacon?
Yes.
Gaba?
No.
Gardner?
No.
Pomerlo?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas abstain. Watson?
Yes.
So it's a tie.
Yay for the good people. Oh, I must apologize.
Fails.
So it fails.
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 It fails?
Fails with a tie.
But what are you going to say now to everybody?
Go about your business as you're doing, I guess.
Keep going.
I see all kinds of people here that would love to serve on a committee.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Show me one.
We're going to move on to our next agenda item.
Wow.
Thank you. What do we do with that?
I have no idea how we did that. Whew.
Order number 117-24, approve utility location permit for Zumscott Hydro LLC, care of West Firm P LLC, Middle Jam Road. Whereas the Standish Town Council
I make a motion that we waive the reading.
I agree.
Second?
All in favor? I think we're having a meeting over here, gentlemen.
Okay.
No,
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
And I'm actually going to make a motion that we postpone this agenda item to our November meeting per request of the permittee.
I'll second that.
All in favor of postponing?
Yes.
Unanimous, thank you. Next item, please.
Absolutely. Order number 118-24, award bid for a front-end loader for the Public Works Department. Whereas a bid process went through Sourcewell and has been conducted for the purchase of a front-end loader for the Public Works Department in accordance with Section 302F of the Standish Charter. Now be it ordered that the attached bid from, and the name is left blank, as described in the bid specifications in an amount not to exceed, and the dollar value is left blank, for the purchase of a front-end loader is hereby accepted. Further ordered that the town manager is authorized on behalf of the town to execute related contract documents.
Mr. Parmelo?
We had 4 bids on this. They ranged from $269,000 to $212,000. We're going to take the $212,555 bid from Milton Cat. So I'd like to amend the order to say bid from Milton Cat for $212,555. And we did set aside $235,000 for this, so it's come in under bid by, what, $23,000, I guess. So taking the low bid, and that's who we want.
Any comments from Mr. Cross?
Mr. Pomelo will make a comment. Sourcewell saved us $119,000 if it was compared to the general consumer going in there by using that governmental purchasing.
Great. And is there any?
Right, excellent.
Any public comment?
Who was the second to his motion?
Somebody said it down here.
It was John. You second.
Seconded.
You second.
Did you second that motion to amend it?
Sure.
I heard somebody say it.
Just
Okay.
now? Yes, I did.
John did. Okay, thank you.
Is there any public comment on the front-end loader? No? Any council comment?
I just have a question.
Just have
I think Phil answered it, but I just want to double check. The money that's allocated for this, did that come out of the budget?
Yes, it was budgeted in
It's
June.
bonded money. It's approved by the voters last June.
Okay, thank you.
Any other council comment? Roll call, please.
On the amendment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Christie?
Yes.
Deacon?
Yes.
Gaba?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yep, yes.
Parmelo?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
7 yes.
And then a roll call on the amended order.
Christie?
Yes.
Deacon?
Yes.
Gaba?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes.
Parmelo?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
7 yes. Order number 119-24, waive bid process for an automated flagger and storage transportation trailer for the Public Works Department.
I'll make a motion that we waive the reading.
So moved.
All in favor? It's unanimous, thank you. Mr. Parmelo?
I'd like to make an amendment to this order, put in Eastern Edge for the amount of $28,288. They're a local company from Maine, and we had another one that bidded, but this was the one we wanted to go with. And also down at where it says further ordered for their trailer was going to be around $16,500, and John, looking into it, I own a trailer company, we felt we could probably find something for around $6,500 instead of buying the trailer that would have come with these units. So we would like to not to exceed $6,500. That'll save the town around $10,000 on this unit if it come with its trailer that they recommended.
I'll second the motion to amend those. All in favor of the amendment? Thank you. Any public comment on this order? Any council comment? Roll call, please.
And
As
this,
amended?
yep. Christie?
Yes.
Deacon?
Yes.
Gaba?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes.
Parmelo?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
7 yes. Order number 120-24, award bid for construction and assembly of a rescue pumper truck, which will be engine 3 for the Public Safety
I
Department.
think so, yeah.
Whereas a bid process through Sourcewell has been conducted for construction and assembly of a rescue pumper for the Public Safety Department in accordance with Section 302F of the Standish Charter, in order that the attached bid bid from Greenwood Emergency Vehicles of Maine as described in the bid specifications in an amount not to exceed $1,002,689, and $975,000 of that will be from the bond, and balance from the sale of the old rescue pumper is hereby accepted for the purchase and construction of a rescue pumper. Further ordered that the town manager is authorized on behalf of the town to execute related contract documents.
Mr. Parmelo?
Well, this one gets a little sticky, but I'll try to go through it, but I'm probably gonna have our chief talk it. We went out in Greenwood, was a company we've used in the past. They've treated us extremely well in this town. The only problem we have at the $1,002,689 is there's an upgrade to the engines, the new California emissions. It's $75,000 more just for the engine with this new upgrades. But we're fortunate, we found one that's already being built, and we're pretty sure it's gonna meet the standards that we set today, so we won't have to be charged $75,000 more dollars. I can let the chief speak on that a little bit more. I'm not sure how he's gonna do it on that.
2027 emission standards, it's the new motor they're coming out with. This truck is slated to come off production September of '26, so we're hoping to still get that new motor. If that's the case, the truck will be like 934-ish. We put the higher amount in just in case, because one of the caveats was we get a hurricane or something happens and blah, 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 it might slow down production. Well, they're in Florida, so what's coming up down there. So anyways, we went with the worst case scenario. But at the end of the day, it could be roughly $75,000 to $100,000 less. What we're asking in that money, we'll just go back to debt services. This just saves us from, if it does get prolonged or they decide to introduce the engine 6 months earlier than 2027, we're protected here without having to come back and ask to borrow more money or anything like that. So, as stated, 975 was passed by the voters. And they're looking at brokering the truck for us to sell it on the open market, and they're guessing somewhere between 30 and 50 is what it would bring in. So that's what we're kind of asking for, that money to offset in case we do have to go with the 2027 emission engine.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? Any more questions from the council? Roll call, please.
Christie.
Yes.
Deacon.
Yes.
Gaba.
Yes.
Gardner.
Yes.
Parmelo.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
7 yes. Order number 121-24, amended Town of Standish orders of Town Council authorizing the issuance of $3,850,599 principal amount of bonds and notes in anticipation of such bonds. Whereas on September 10th, 2024, the Town Council of Standish, Maine adopted orders of the Town Council authorizing issue of $3,850,599 principal amount of bonds and notes in anticipation of such bonds, the order, which authorized the issuance of bonds and notes in anticipation thereof for the following projects: up to $975,000 for public safety capital expenditures for the purpose of financing purchase of new Engine 3 E1 vehicle. B, up to $150,000 for general administration.
Make a motion to waive the reading.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Scott, would you have anything else to speak on this?
Yeah, this is a housekeeping issue. The original order did not include the 4 international trucks for $700,000 that we voted on at special town meeting in March. The Maine Bond Bank would like that in the order, so that's why this is coming back.
Thank you. Any questions from the public? Any comments from the council? Okay, seeing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Christie?
Yes.
Deacon?
Yes.
Gaba?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes.
Parmelo?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
7 yes. Order number 122-24, resolution to oppose Gorham Connector as proposed by the Maine Turnpike Authority. Whereas the Maine Turnpike Authority, the MTA's public process, has failed to garner support for the proposed Gorham Connector among many Standish residents, and whereas many Standish residents have voiced their opposition to the project in public forums, and whereas the MTA has not fulfilled all the terms of the memorandum of agreement between the MTA and the directly impacted municipalities entered into on May 5th, 2022. And whereas although Standish is not one of those directly impacted municipalities, it is not part of the memorandum of agreement entered into on May 5th, 2022, because of the Gorham Connector is not proposed to be located within the town of Standish. The town of Standish will be one of the communities receiving traffic from the Gorham Connector. And whereas the traffic conditions and trends supporting the need for the Gorham Connector may no longer justify the project, now be it resolved that the town of Standish is opposed to the Gorham Connector as proposed. Further resolved that the town of Standish will reconsider its position if and when the MTA demonstrates a need for an east-west connector that has achieved the public support for the project.
And Ms. Gabbard, your name's on this one. Would you like to extrapolate?
That one's mine.
Ms. Stone, yes. That's what I said.
So this is a resolution that was modeled after what the Scarborough Town Council approved on October 2nd. This is talking about the proposed 4.8-mile, 4-lane divided toll turnpike that would run from Gorham to Scarborough. I recognize that this resolution is not a binding resolution, whereas the Maine Turnpike Authority probably won't care that we've entered into this, although we've had this discussion, because Standish isn't a home to any part of this connector. However, I think it's important that Standish take a stand because we are the beneficiary of the commuter traffic. We are cited in the Turnpike's reports saying that we are going to get increased traffic, we're going to get increased households because it'll be easier to get out here to Standish. But I would ask people to look at, well, what's the cost? The estimated cost savings for commuters is a 2 to 5 minute savings of time in traffic. But the significant price that would be paid for that turnpike expansion, the impact to the local environment, the loss of homes, businesses, and farms, which would convert it to tax-exempt property, which Standish is not immune to, and the effects of sprawl that Standish will likely experience. There is probably less expensive and less destructive alternatives. Both Portland and Scarborough have said that they don't support this, and I think it's appropriate for Standish to take a stand and show that as the project is currently proposed, we don't support it.
Thank you. I'm going to open up the public comment first. As a reminder, we do have 5 minutes time.
Thank you, yes. My name is Standish Moody Roberts. I live in North Scarborough. And thank you so much for taking up this resolution. I just want to speak on behalf of the residents in Scarborough, North Scarborough and South Gorham that are in the path of this proposed turnpike. First, I want to talk about Smiling Hill Farm. I live right across the street from the farm, and I know the Knights very well. And many of you have probably been there. That family's been cultivating that land since 1720, I believe, over 300 years. And this turnpike, it goes through their western field, and it would take about 45 acres of their land. But it's not just about those 45 acres. What happens when you put a turnpike through a farm, even if it's just a portion of that farm? The rest of their farmland is subjected to the resulting road pollution, runoff, wildlife impact, wetland drainage basin disruption, clear-cutting and regrading of the land. It's not just putting a normal road through their field and woods. It's a 4-lane divide turnpike and turnpike interchange with a multi-year construction timeline of blasting and debris. Turnpike would also be skirting S.D. Warren's old uncased sludge landfill across the street right next to my home. That is filled with PFAS and easily disturbed. All this on top of one of southern Maine's most significant aquifers. Smiling Hill's operation as a whole is very much degraded and, yes, endangered, especially given that it's labor love for the family, and it's hard enough struggle being a dairy farmer. But on a broader scale, this proposed turnpike would be demolishing around a dozen of our homes in North Scarborough and South Gorham, paving over around 40 acres of protected wetland, redirecting, severely impairing the headwaters of Red Brook, bisecting many acres of undeveloped wildlife habitat and taking many other neighbors' yards and land by eminent domain. It would destroy a huge amount of beautiful undeveloped land and create a scar in the landscape that would have profound environmental degradation to the surrounding area. Eminent domain and construction of a new turnpike are concepts that should only ever be considered as a last possible resort. After everything else with less impact has been tried and an overwhelming majority of the community is demanding it. I believe that's clearly not the case here. We don't have an outpouring of the community coming out and saying that this is the only way. There are alternatives that have not yet been tried that involve fixing the existing road, improving the existing road. The Turnpike Authority has claimed that the only way to fix the existing road would be taking many other homes. And I'm sure you all have been through the overlap, which is where 114 and 22 combine, which is what causes that bottleneck in the area traffic that this would be addressing. There's a 66-foot right-of-way there. Even a four-lane road can fit within 50 feet of width. And honestly, if you do this process right, you start with your intersections. You fix those intersections, make them as efficient and straightforward as you possibly can, be that a roundabout, be that extending turning lanes, and having automated stop signals. After that, then you can look at a limited widening on a stretch-by-stretch basis. The only stretch that has an AADT on 22 and 114 that is at capacity is a 1 mile stretch where the two are combined. So that's the only area that truly needs to be addressed to fix that congestion. So I know Standish doesn't have a immediate impact, but I just urge you to think of those of us that are in the path of that turnpike. And that suburban sprawl will extend itself as every mile of new turnpike spur is created and brings the surrounding towns closer to Portland for commuters. And while it's us in Scarborough and Gorham that are in the path right now, one day that could be extended. It could be the Sebago connector, and it could be Randall Orchard, and it could be Standish in its path too. So thank you so much for considering this resolution, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
I got a question for
Deborah Butler, 2 Juniper Lane, Standish, Maine. This is really why I came here tonight. I didn't know about the other issue. I will agree with everything he said. Smiling Hill Farm is the 9th. I emailed all of you today. Smiling Hill Farm is the 9th continuous family business in the United States. It's rated, it's number 9. It's been here before Maine was even Maine. 1720 is when they started. There's 12 generations has done it through it. It's not just Smiling Hill Farm that they're going to decimate. They'll be taking over Red Brook. I don't know if you ever realize there's wetlands there. I have some paperwork on it, but there's a lot of impact that they will take. There's wetlands, like he said, that's some of that area that's been contaminated and sealed over that they would be possibly disturbing. There's all kinds of impact to different people's houses. Eminent domain does not pay what the going rate is for a real what a real property is worth. They just decide how much they're going to give the person there. So there's a lot of things wrong with it. I really hope you guys will join the few other towns that have said no, because there's such a big outcry of people. I'm in the Facebook and the social media groups that people that are voicing concerns about this, because they have not looked at this. You drive down 114, you go for miles, and there's vacant land on both sides, and like they said, that you have the right-of-ways, that they could be putting different lanes in. And there's a lot of different things they can do before they destroy a family farm and the other people's homes that they would be taking. And I hope you will consider joining the opposition to this. Thank you very much.
Izzy Higgins, 215 Bonne Eagle Road. I'm going to play the age card again, because when I first started commuting from Standish to Portland, you could sit on the hill on 114 going up to that intersection forever, because there was nothing but a blinking light the other way, a yellow blinking light for the Buxton crowd, and we had a red blinking light. The improvements that have been made are impressive. They've solved a good deal of the problem. I'm still grateful not to have to be commuting anymore, but the changes that have been made have made a lot of difference. And I'm also old enough to remember when Smiling Hill was one of half a dozen family farms from the Scarborough line all the way to where the Jetport is now. And this is the last of the Mohicans, and I feel can't believe I didn't wear my T-shirt tonight, but to do something like this to that piece of property for 2 to 4 minutes is criminal. And I think they can continue to improve what they've done with signals and turning lanes and timing of the lights to fix the problem more than taking away this lovely piece of property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Andrew Walton from Sioux Falls. I want to thank Councilor Thomas for putting in this resolution. I agree with everything that's said, and one of the things that we've heard from the Comprehensive Plan Committee in the survey, one of the top topics was traffic, and this connector would only bring more traffic. That is the effect it has on Standish, is more traffic, and we don't have any way of dealing with it except to take it. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Any other public comments? Okay, council comments.
I'll go take a stab at it. I think, got the agenda, and, I've always been, mindful that that is a terrible commute, that area, and it certainly is in need of looking at, of repair. But certainly the process that the MTA has gone through, I don't think meets the straight-face test of, again, getting that public support for the project. I think also that that it really is about how you do it. It's important that we get it done. So I do intend to vote in favor of this resolution, but I do hope that the MTA continues to move at the problem, to look at solving it. But it would be obviously preferred that we are not going through historical farms, that we're not taking anyone's homes. And I think certainly in Maine, with some of the largest amounts of green space compared to other states, that is somehow possible with enough people wanting to do the same thing. And then further, I think that, it really is just, a commute. So I think, I've certainly come around on the issue, to be 100% honest with folks. Standish is a commuting town, and I actually wouldn't commute in that direction, but I think I have a 19-mile commute, and some mornings, if I go during rush hour, it takes me over an hour. And that is a problem, and I think that we should solve that for people. So again, I just hope that the MTA doesn't look at this and the towns coming at this like they don't want a solution, period. And I think that's what I have to say on that, other than, I do also recognize that this is largely performative. So we're coming together as a town, and however the vote goes, we're saying, yes, we want this, no, we don't want that. And, hopefully that news will reach the MTA. But as far as having, I just don't want the townspeople to watch this at home and think like, my town council stopped that from happening. There's still work to do if you don't want to see that happening. And so I think, you probably could tell us more about where that goes from here maybe, but that's, I think, not for the resolution itself.
Mr. Parmelo?
I don't think any of us are engineers in this room, and I don't think I'm not up to speed on this project because it wasn't really in my back door. So I was kind of taken aside when I saw this tonight because I don't have the information. I'm hearing, and I'm just wondering if it weren't for the farm, would we be in favor of this tonight? Would we support this if it wasn't for Smiling Hill Farm? Because I know the 2 to 5 minutes, I owned a heat and oil business for 38 years, and we had to travel to Portland 2 or 3 times a day with trucks. And we left at 6:50 in the morning. If not, we were in traffic for 15, 20 minutes sometimes. And what bothers me with us not looking to the future on that roads here is we're approving 500 houses today. Now, tonight, we basically looked at 500 houses. That's 1,000 more cars that are gonna go down to, could possibly go down 25. Then add Gorham and Buxton and Baldwin, Sebago, and already it's boxed up so bad, there's no way around it. And I've been as far over to Sam's Club sitting dead in the water. I've been halfway up the hill at the Rotary. This is like every 6:30, 7 in the morning until, and then from your 4:30 to 6 at night. And I don't know where they're getting the 2-minute storms, at the most 3 or 4 minutes, because I know that that's not happening. And then when you get into bad weather, it could be 45 minutes because now you're stacking up. So I don't know why we're sticking our nose in here. I'm not sure, is Gorham still supporting it and Wyndham? Why are we doing something we really wasn't on the radar to be supporting this, and now all of a sudden because of a farm, and I agree, I don't want it to go through your farm, but without the farm, we wouldn't have a problem with this, I don't believe.
It's not connected to.
Is this the time for council comments? Sorry.
Yeah, and I understand that, but what happens is like Scarborough says, we're not impacted, because if you live in Scarborough and you're coming to anywhere in western Maine, you're missing the traffic in the morning, and then coming home at night, you're not impacted. Who's impacted is everybody from Gorham to Vermont that's traveling 25 and 113, 114. That's who's impacted by us not improving this system down there. And widening the roads, I'm telling you, from 22 to the Sam's is probably one of the worst roads I've ever been on with my trucks. There isn't a trucking company, logging, oil, everything from Vermont, New Hampshire, oil and gas trucks come down that narrow road. People are trying to bike on it. There was an older lady that used to bike all the time, and I always wondered when she was going to get hit, and because there's just not enough room. And now to push all these cars that we're building, all these houses out from here, west of here, and then going to set them all back down into the 22, 114 corridor. So I don't know what the answer is, but I wish I didn't have to vote on this tonight because I don't have enough information at all, to be honest with you.
Any other council comments?
Yeah, so I had the same thought, taking notes that as people were saying that people would move out here and it's going to affect us by having more people kind of move out here and things like that, but we're building apartment buildings and houses, so we're already going to have that anyway, and we got to help them have a good commute in. I don't know enough about for one, the corridor or the connector, and the impact and everything, and I didn't even know anything about this. To have to vote on it and to instead of bringing it to a workshop where we could maybe workshop it and talk about it, it's kind of difficult. So I did talk to, because I wanted to know more about it. I called Smiling Hill Farm today just so I could talk to them about it and get their opinion on it and ask them how does it impact them? Because I was getting emails from people in Standish voicing their opinion, people from Gorham. And I want to listen to them as much as I want to listen to what I believe. So I called Smiling Hill Farm and asked them their opinion, and I got their opinion, and it is an impact on them, and it does upset them and stuff, and they're willing to work with the state or the people running this. But it was a short conversation, 20 minutes, not short, but, not enough time to really get into it and understand all of it. So I have a hard time voting on it tonight, is all I'm saying. So I wish we didn't have to. I don't know what can I abstain? I don't know, how does that work? So.
I'd be happy to, we can move to table this and discuss it. I can bring people in to discuss this at a workshop if the counselors feel that would be more appropriate.
How do you guys feel about that?
I wouldn't mind
Do that.
listen to that, but like I said, unless we're bringing MDT in or whatever it is, Maine Department, bringing them in to hear their side. I mean, we publicize this, and we've got some people from out of town and a few people from in town speaking tonight, but I just don't know if we want to get in this fight with DOT over something that we have no say in. We weren't asked to participate in this original plan, I guess, right?
I think that's part of the problem, is that we keep being cited in all of these studies as saying,
Right.
oh, it's gonna benefit Standish, and, this is what it's gonna do for Standish, but we haven't been a part of that process.
Right.
I think it's important that we be a part of that process.
So being part of the process means eliminating what they've been working on for 4 or 5 or 6 years or whatever. Or saying that we don't support it. I just don't know if people in town support this or not. You're saying you had people call you, but the thing is, I know people are stressed with the travel in that area, and it's gonna get worse. We just approved tonight. I mean, how many cars can that 22 section take? It's overcrowded now, and even if you widen the lanes out a little bit and make some lights happen, you can't make the lights happen because they stack up in front of VIP. They stack up, it's not like they just stack up at one intersection. So I can't support it tonight. It should have gone to a committee or a workshop anyways. It shouldn't have come straight forward here. I wish it had gone through instead of just showing up here and none of us having any information.
Same could be said about some other things that were on the agenda this evening.
What's that?
I said the same could be said for some other things that were
I
on the
agree.
agenda this evening. But, I mean, I think that,
At least they went
I have no problem with going to workshop, if that's what you want to do.
Just to be clear too, and transparency, Counselor Thompson did send a packet, and I did forward it to all the counselors. So maybe there's IT issues, but everyone did get some information a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
On Thursday.
I did send it.
I'm going to mirror what they're saying and kind of saying there's a traffic issue, period. That's 100% a fact. I also don't want to see X amount of people more commuting through here without a way to get out. I would like to see more information, and if you guys are okay with tabling it or postponing it to a workshop and get more information, I think that's a great idea. See if we can get MTA or DOT folks here, have a good workshop about it, and move forward with it that way.
Were they even aware of this tonight?
It's just Jennifer's
Right.
order that's
I know.
forward.
Yeah, well, I move to amend my resolution to move this to a workshop. We can invite the MTA, we
I
can
think
invite
that's a good idea. I support that.
other interested parties
Smiling
that
Hill
want
Farm.
to speak.
Just for the record too, we have a workshop for October, and we historically don't have one in November and December. It's Christmas, so it wouldn't be until January.
It wouldn't be a bad idea to have this as a standalone on a workshop because it could get into, especially if we're inviting Maine DOT to come in, because we're definitely not up to speed on this, and I don't think anybody listening tonight on TV is probably up to speed on
MTA.
what's going on there.
Yeah.
I haven't even talked about the poor geese. They're gonna be upset.
There you go.
The geese.
Every time you go by.
Are we making a motion to table? I second, I think.
Postpone it to a time certain?
Yeah, so what's the workshop in January?
You're asking to look at it. I don't know.
Imagine it's,
Do you think that your group would be available for that? Or do you want a more vague, that it would be,
I think if I have a date certain, I can make the
It's
invitation.
January 22nd.
Jeez.
Sorry, yes,
2021,
28.
28th, okay. Okay, postponed till the January 28th workshop? And who was the second of that?
Was there a
Second that?
Yes, I seconded it earlier.
Oh, Phil seconded that earlier?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
So we have a roll call, please, on the postponing of the order.
So we're tabling it till the,
Postponing, not tabling.
postponing till,
The January workshop, which is the
Okay.
28th.
all right, good.
Christie?
Fair.
Christie?
No.
Deacon?
No.
Gaba?
So going
Just to
south.
clarify, the vote is to move, to table it until,
Until,
or to postpone it.
January,
Yes.
a
So
workshop.
my vote is yes.
Gaba?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes.
Harmelo?
yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
5 yes, 2 no.
Any other announcements? Public comments, announcements, yes.
Carolyn Beagle, 141 Ospey Trail East. Ooh. I'm sorry, I was working tonight, so I missed the public hearing on the sign, but I feel compelled to come forward. We've talked, I've heard a few things tonight about wanting people to serve on committees, and I've heard people really wanting to preserve Standish's rural character. And so this ordinance, to me, is all about, you know, what they're saying, the devil's in the details. When we worked on the committee, we were so fortunate, the ordinance committee, we were so fortunate to be Maine's model town and get all the professional help with looking at how to create the town that you identified in your comprehensive plan. And so we, for a very short time also, Standish attended a couple of meetings with Maine Development Foundation with their Main Street Maine projects, which I'd love to see Standish get back as part of that organization. But when we talk about the devil in the details, what seems like a pretty minor thing about putting a sign on the side of a building, you know, what harm does that do? But in the village, that is only in the village. It's not on the gateway. It's just in the village where you have your pedestrian-friendly environment. And so in that area, signs are supposed to be much lower so that they're eye level when you're walking, they're eye level when you're driving. And when you start putting things on the sides of buildings, what you start getting is visual pollution. And it really doesn't increase activity in the business. What it does do is it cheapens the appearance of your town. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples that I've noticed recently here in Standish. For instance, when Dunkin' Donuts was first approved many years ago, it was a very controversial project. But citizens came forward, worked with members of the planning board to figure out how they can have a business that's a franchise come into town without it destroying Standish's character. And so they said, all right, we'll have this very colonial-looking building. We'll have a sign out front that is not internally lit. You know, it was a best-case scenario, right? And we got a Dunkin' Donuts, a franchise. Well, you'll notice that gradually over time, that business has always been very busy, right? If you go to Dunkin' Donuts, has there ever not been a line? What's happened, though, is all of a sudden, if you look a few years later, after that development was approved, all of a sudden, whoops, there was a new sign there that was not in compliance with the conditions of approval for the project. And then, oh, gee, a little bit more time go by, and all of a sudden, now there's Dunkin' on the side of the building, facing 25, I don't know how that was approved with the current code, but additionally, there's also new franchising siding on the building, which is also against the code. So I'm thinking to myself, how does that happen? But what really takes place is that our streetscape becomes cheaper. It starts to lose that rural character, and instead, we're getting the strip development that everybody in town says they want to avoid. I'll give you another example. So when Pit Stop went through, my buddy Dana, he went through a process where the canopy had to have recessed lighting, no signage. All the signage was on the sign that went along the streetscape. If you drive by there now, that it's changed hands, all of a sudden, Irving is all across the outside of the canopy, and the canopy's lit in the corner to say Irving. And now we have a new Circle K plastered on the side. We have a lot more signage stuck in the ground. Like, how does all that happen? Well, that's the devil is in the details. So if all of a sudden, all these little details for one business is allowed to happen, then it affects everything else that happens on our streetscape, and it cheapens it. So again, instead of maintaining our rural character, we are turning into a strip, piece by piece by piece.
Thank you.
I'll just finish by saying, I know, but you want people to serve on committees, and when they do, it's very disheartening to find that the powers that be work in opposition to what the citizens have put forth. That's very disheartening. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or announcements? This is the time for, come on up.
Just a couple of things that had been said that I wanted to respond to real quick. What you said about 22 being a terrible road is spot on. And the reason for that is that the MTA became the lead agency to solve this congestion problem all the way back in 2005. And since that time, because the MTA can only do one thing, which is to build the turnpike, the only option on the table has been to build that turnpike spur, and it's taken them 20 plus years just to get to a terrible proposal that would involve a lot of destruction to our area. But you're exactly right. There hasn't been any effort in those 20 years to try to fix our existing roads. I think a workshop is a really good idea, and I really appreciate you guys for wanting to take the time to consider this issue, because it matters so much to all of us. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Signing to do, counselors, thank you.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Miss Mary, sorry.